Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to be the host of this webinar. I, Ranjani, project engineer, welcoming you all for the 10th theme of Vigyan Utsav, Basic Science and Atmanirbhar Bharat. As India is celebrating a 75th year of independence, the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, through Science and Technology Council, is showcasing the science, technology, and innovation ecosystem at the state and its contribution towards Atmanirbhar Bharat through a year-long program, Vigyan Utsav. Hence, the identified theme for this month is Basic Science and Atmanirbhar Bharat. The objective of the program is to understand the need and the joy of the basic science, to stimulate the role of Atmanirbhar Bharat through basic science, also to motivate young minds towards the science research through various programs. Now, I would like to welcome our Executive Secretary to brief about the webinar. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, all of you. I think we have completed so far 9 webinar series, 9 months. This is the 10th month now. And it's really wonderful to see a good number of participation in this year-long program that Vigyan Utsav we are organizing. I think credit goes to each of you for participating and make this program a success. I think we have started the Atmanirbharta in the right earnest manner. I'll just share my presentation. I'll make a brief presentation of the activities of my council and the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav itself, and why are we doing it, and what is the purpose, and what is the objective, and what is the takeaway from all these things? Because since we have a good number of participation, people also should know what is that they can take away from this webinar series. Uh, is the full screen visible now?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. Just to brief about my council for those people who have joined for the first time in this webinar series. Uh, we are only the one of the few councils established the middle 70s, that is in 1975. Apart from us, there were other few councils which started somewhere in 74, 75. They are UP, Kerala, and to an extent, I think, Punjab. So these councils were expected to work with the R&D institutions and to whatever the R&D institutions could do in their laboratories should reach the people. That's the basic idea. I mean, taking lab to land kind of a thing. Because this is what is actually Atmanirbhar Bharat started in 1975 itself for KSCST. Because all the things that we did in the past 45 years is taking the projects, programs, and technologies from lab to land. That's what we did in 45 years. This also shows the Make in India itself is a good concept done by our councils and also the government of India. We work with both the state and central government, and we basically take up sponsored projects, scientific services, and scientific consultancy as well. Since being located in Indian Institute of, Indian Institute of Science provides you that much vigor and strengthen the council's activities, because you could see that initial part of KCS, that is from 1975 to almost 2000, we excelled in many areas, that is energy efficient stoves, biogas, solar, wind, micro, hydel, sisal, housing, etc. This is all because of the rigorous R&D that held in Indian Institute of Science Laboratory, and staff from the KSCST participated in these programs as well. And these programs were basically funded by both the state and central government. And most of these technologies that we developed, this was disseminated in a large scale. And the KCST is also proud that we could disseminate these technologies in such a large scale. Just for example, Astravale dissemination is about 2 million, that's about 20 lakh stoughs we did. Biogas, I think a number of biogas plants, I don't come the numbers. And solar wind, we started the solar wind mapping in 90s, and look at, we didn't expect at that point of time the kind of data that we produced on solar wind will be used in such an extent. And we have this institution called CREDL, that is Karnataka Renewable Energy Development Department itself. Now almost you could see that solar is taking away around 25 to 30% of the power generated in Karnataka. So what is started as a small unit in KSCST, earlier it used to be called Self-Renewable Development Activities, CREDA. It has become a big department, and also you could see from hardly less than a percentage of solar power, Karnataka in 90s, in 2022, we could see something around 30%. And KCST has at least has some role to play in it. That's what I'm interested in. And we work with all of them. I think we work with both the state central government departments, R&D institutions, academic institutions. We work with NGOs and industries as well. The list doesn't stop there. Whenever we found an important technology or important product that's developed somewhere, we'll try to take it forward and see that it reaches the people. And the vision is, I think all of you know that vision is basically to provide employment and to see the improvement in socio-economic conditions in the state of the Karnataka. These are the two major visions of the council. And this slide actually shows some of the recent projects that we are taking up. One of them is Geospatial Technologies, that's extensive use of remote sensing and GIS maps for decision making. Fortunately, with the support of the state government, I think KSCST is doing well in terms of spreading this GS technologies. And we have a center in each districts now, which is being administered by the Jilla Panchayat Chief Executive Officer and Chief Planning Officer. And they take care of the day-to-day requirement of the departments coming under Jilla Panchayat and also the district administration, including the uh, municipalities and towns within that district. And this program actually provides the last mile connectivity for all the GIS that is generated in India by multiple mapping agencies, including from Survey of India, then ISRO. I mean, you name the agency, the finally it has to reach the people. Who is that? The person who needs the GIS technology most. That is the person at the last level, like assistant director or assistant engineer who is involved in developmental activity hands-on. He requires these data and these maps. This is possible only when we have a district centers, they can reach these departments and provide solutions. And apart from that, we have this digital heritage program, which looks into mapping all the archaeological sites of Karnataka. Uh, Basically, it's a repository of archaeological sites for restoration and rejuvenation and also 3D virtual walkthrough. Uh, this is given to us by the state government looking at the way we generated data for Hampi UNESCO site. And probably I think Karnataka is the first state to map the entire archaeological sites owned and maintained by Karnataka state government for a 3D laser technology. So probably in a year or so, the entire mapping will be complete and we'll be able to see these things online. If you have internet, you can see any archaeological sites and you can have a 3D view. And also for the department, what is the use for them? I think they can do the restoration and rejuvenation whenever it's needed because they have the minutest data with them. Apart from that, we have the water technologies wherein rainwater harvesting is one of our flagship program wherein it is possible from a small idea somewhere in 2001 to save water and now it's becoming a it's spread like anything in the capital city of Bangalore by installation of more than 1.75 lakh houses in Bangalore have installed this rainwater harvesting. Apart from that, we also started penalizing if people don't do that as per the notification. I think this went well, and we also have few patents in this. And we also support the watershed development department and especially the departments like RDPR and minor irrigation in the water body restorations also. And in education, we fund the student projects program since 77, 78, and it's almost 45 years now. Recently, we shortlisted project for the 45th series. Out of the 5,000 plus projects we received, I think close to 1,200 plus projects supported. And we're going to have this final state level seminar and exhibition that's going to be held in VTU campus. And the dates are also being finalized. It will be in August 12th, 13th. And this is a wonderful project wherein the research and development that goes through in the these institutions, we shortlist them. Some of them are possible products and services, and we also, if found suitable, we also fund those projects principal investigators. That is the faculty who guided them. We also fund them as faculty projects, and this year also we funded about 16 faculty projects. These faculty projects were earlier declared the best, awarded projects. So from the students' projects, we also moved on to faculty projects. I think this is a good sign because students, once they do the projects, they might move on in their life. But if they have a good project, which we would like to continue through the faculty, that's the idea of this thing. And also, we are taking up auditing of high school scientific audit to just look at where we stand from the investment perspective, from the quality of education perspective, from the infrastructure, all that we look into scientific audit, and we also suggest the ways and means to improve the system better so that the investment is also in the right direction. Apart from that, we have alternate building technologies. This is an extensive R&D work by the Civil Engineering Department of IISc. I think this wonderful project has been there for 4 decades now, having seen more than 20,000 houses built over a period of 4 decades. I think it's a wonderful journey. And right now it's on its own. I think we don't need the technology support now because these technologies.
Excuse me, sir, you're muted, sir. Hemant, sir.
Just check someone is muting or something like that.
No, sir, no.
Hmm?
No.
Sure is it?
Yes, sir.
Now it's visible now, screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no, I didn't mute it myself, but check whether someone is muting it because otherwise it becomes difficult for the other speakers are also, right?
Okay, sir. I check.
If check anything, can the others also mute? No? Okay, right. So then we have working on bioenergy, also renewable energy, bioenergy, rural lighting, and things like that. And recently, we are more focused on patents also. I think we established IPSL, Intellectual Property Rights Cell, in close to 50 universities now. And recently, we could see that more than 750 patents have been filed by these IPSLs established by the council. It's a good sign because that's what the government of India, through its many projects, many programs, through its department, would like to see more and more patents coming in filed in India, so that it results in good many products and services, and it also supports the Make in India program of government real estate. And apart from that, we also have the Center of Excellence Cybersecurity and Aerospace and Defense with us. And those who wants to work with us or undergo any training in aerospace and defense or cybersecurity, they are most welcome, and they can also follow it up through our website. We have the websites of individual these centers also. Either they can look at our website or these websites for participating in these centers of excellence workshops and webinar activities. One of the recent developments which just like to mention, one of which has started as a simple science that was in 2 decades back, that is drying of fruits and vegetables. And now it is come to as a startup company within KSCST itself. Initially, because of the core science, we would able to generate dry fruits and vegetables through uh, our own technologies developed by Center of Sustainable Technologies. And now we plan to take this up further and make it as a Section 8 company as well. And out of the 9 themes we have completed so far, STI institutions, we did it, and we are bringing out a white paper on each of these themes to know what is the status of these themes in the state of Karnataka. Other is human resource development. STI institutions deals with mainly the kind of institutions we have, both central, public, private, central government, state government, and things like that. Then we look at R&D infrastructure, indigenous technologies, where we could, indigenous technology is one thing where we have technologies in the past, because of certain uh, competition in the present, those technologies might have lost its way. So now with this, with the inputs from science and technology, how do you make these technologies which were there earlier relevant even today? That's what we did in indigenous technologies, and many technologies we found that it could be taken further. Then we worked on innovation and startups. Many ideas have come through because of our expert speakers. And then we have this science communication popularization, wherein we focused more on because science communication is an art. It is difficult to communicate science in a way that people understand it. Unless we do that, we don't get the support from either the public or from the policymakers. So we need to communicate well so that scientists get the support from public. Otherwise, what happens is science, they believe that it's not for us, and they also believe that some of the benefits of science, which we always say, science does this, does that, it has to reach people. Otherwise, they they don't appreciate the work we do. So that's how science communication population is most important to us. Then we looked at women scientists as well, then science and society. And the last one which we did was on future technologies. That is, keynote speaker was Professor DKS, and he talked about the technologies uh, that's going to come in the next 10 or 1 to 3 decades, which is going to disrupt the way we do currently, and the things will be done much differently, maybe in a decade or so. That's what it was discussed during that. And this time we are looking at basic science for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat is nothing but self-reliant India. For self-reliant India, you need only two things, that is skilling in India, make in India, so that you get employment. Employment is the core for skilling, core for making in India. Because for a population like 1.3 billion, I think employment is the only way to escape from poverty. So to do that, first of all, we start make in India. How do you make in India unless you have the patent and R&D uh, inputs? So that's why the top 9 are important. The objectives here is to understand the need and joy of doing basic science. And these are the 4 objectives that we have printed to promote self-reliance, indigenation, and stimulate the role. And basically, for me, what is joy of science is it is not joy of science just working in the lab. I think we need to adopt the scientific method of thinking or scientific temperament in our day-to-day life as well. It is not just the study of science that makes me gives me thrill. It is the adoption of science in day-to-day life which is makes it more fun, more interesting as well. Science, I think all of you know, the study and pursuit of knowledge about the natural world. And generally, when you ask people what is science, I mean, most of them they know the word, but they will not be knowing the definition of it. So, science is the knowledge gained from observations and experiments. This is very crucial because without observations and experiments repeatedly done to describe and explain the world around us, it's not possible that we are actually a scientific tempered. So, this is how it is done. So all scientists observe things, try to explain their observations, and then they conduct experiments to test their ideas. So if you observe certain things, then you need to explain. And if you wanted to explain, it has to be foolproof. Then you conduct experiments to test the ideas which you observe. This is called the scientific method. This process is called scientific method. And to solve this problem through a scientific method, basically we observe first, then we get to develop an idea about why it happens. Then we start developing experiment to test the ideas, then predict what will happen in the experiments, then observe what actually happens, then modify ideas if predictions were wrong. I think this you must have seen in newspapers as well, especially in pharmaceutical industries. You see that a certain tablet is banned after 20 years. Initially, that tablet, which has a certain benefits for human beings, it is given or prescribed by the doctor. But over a period of time, we found that medicine also has side effects. Then you understand it better. Then you either modify it, modify the formulations. Otherwise, you say it's no longer going to be prescribed. So you ban it. So science is never stagnant. Every day, every minute, we get the through experiments, more and more experiments, we get the new results, and that's how we improve all the time. And what does the society gets by it? I mean, it stimulates our thought, it satisfies our curiosity, it influences the views of the world, and also provides knowledge necessary for the new technological development and growth. And I think that's it from my side. And now it's over to Ranjani, please. I think the first speaker is also ready, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Before we going with the today's session, resource persons talk, I would give few instruction to the participants. The participation certificate will be given to the participants, those who are attending the session actively and filling the certificate link which is provided at the end of the session. And for any questions regarding the session, you can put your questions in the chat box. The questions will be answered by the resource persons. Now, I would like to welcome Professor Gayatri Devraj, registered Davangere University, for the session. Dr. Gayatri Devraj is a professor and a chairperson in Davangere University. She is the recipient of Dr. Kalpana Chawla Award, and she is a Register of Evaluation in Davangere University, syndicate member, Dean Faculty and Science and Technology, Chairperson, Department of Microbiology, Davangere University. Her research interests are bioremediation for sustainable environment, prohibition for healthcare, use of monoclonal antibodies for the detection of animal and human pathogens. Welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Anjani.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, over to you, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. No. Video please.
1 minute.
Ma'am, are you trying to share the PPT?
Yes.
Just lock at this one.
Am I visible?
No, ma'am, not yet. You can present the entire screen, ma'am, so that we can see your PPT.
Let's see.
Screenshot. There.
Good morning, everybody. It is a great pleasure for me to be on this platform under the aegis of KSCST, Government of Karnataka, Bangalore. And Davangere University is one of the important university which is taking much of the themes of KCST, which has been just provided and presented by Professor Hemant Kumar sir. And we have been undertaking good number of projects such as student project or the awards and the patents. And patent office has been developed in collaboration with the KSCST, inaugurated by our higher education minister year before last. And basic science and Atmanirbhar Bharat is one of the pertinent topic that is taken up by the organization.
Ma'am, are you sharing your PPT?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
We cannot able to see the PPT, ma'am.
Yeah, just a second.
You can share the entire screen.
Yeah, enter. Shri. KSCST.
Yes, ma'am, we can able to see the PPT, make it a full screen. Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
So today the topic of discussion is probiotics as a healthcare product. Yojana. We are well aware that, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
Yeah. Microorganisms are present everywhere, and we are well aware that microorganisms are beneficial as well as harmful. Beneficial microorganisms often help to enhance the food value, especially by adding the essential nutrients. Therefore, the economic value of the food increases with the fermentative activity or the production of varieties of biometabolites by these organisms. In addition to that, microorganisms are capable of producing varieties of diseases either by bacteria, virus, fungus, protozoa, and so on and so forth. These organisms, which are capable of producing the disease, can also be useful in producing their byproducts. These products can be used for the detection of those diseases among plants, animals, and humans. At the same time, they are also helpful in producing varieties of vaccines or antibiotics. Extrapolation of the beneficial effect of these microorganisms are highly essential in order to develop the products by using these microorganisms. Especially as we take our birth as an young child, the entire body of the child will be barren without any microorganism. As soon as the birth takes place, microorganism starts colonizing with the proximity of the mother and the hospital or wherever they are born. From the start of life till the end of the life, good number of microorganisms start sedimenting, they start colonizing at various parts of the body. Especially if you take up gastrointestinal system, in the gut, lot many microorganisms accommodates from stomach to ileum. As the stomach pH is 1, the number of microorganisms will be limited. That is, at 1 square centimeter area, about 10 to the power of 1 organism would be present. As the pH progressively increases to alkalinity, the organism increases to the level of 10 to the power of 13 per square centimeter area. Microorganism has a good amount of beneficial effect when it colonizes the intestine. They provide good health to the individual by retracting the entry of pathogenic organisms, or by producing biometabolic products, or digesting partially digested food product into final assimilable form. So these organisms often are helpful to human beings. At the same time, microorganisms appear to be very friendly to us. However, the same organism can also be foe or enemy for us if the intestinal stability, homeostasis of the gastrointestinal system disturbs. Therefore, the same organism can become pathogenic. Often, the replenishment of good microorganisms which are conferring the health benefit is highly essential. In this particular context, a good number of microorganisms which are helpful in promoting the health of the individual, often called probiotics, can be used to promote the health of the individual. And in our laboratory, we have focused on a number of organisms targeting to different diseases or allergy and disorders, such that these organisms are helpful to humankind. Probiotics are the microorganisms which are,
Excuse me, ma'am.
yeah,
Slides are not moving.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
giving introduction. Now I will start. Uh, so these probiotics, maybe especially what I'm taking up is lactic acid bacteria, belonging to two groups, especially um, lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. These lactic acid bacteria are important microorganisms that mainly produce lactic acid as a byproduct during a good number of metabolic activities. These bacteria has multifaceted role in agriculture, food, clinical sector as well. Organisms are gram-positive and non-spore-forming organism. It is aerotolerant, which produce lactic acid in abundant amount upon utilization of different types of carbohydrates. The end product of the catabolism would be organic acid, which enhance the flavor, odor, and texture. Therefore, they improve the total organoleptic properties of a given food. Lactic acid bacteria is present ubiquitously, as we have just mentioned, and abundantly present in dairy food products, especially in milk and milk products, meat, vegetable food products. They are naturally present in the intestine as well and other gastrourogenital tract. The ecology of the lactic acid bacteria has transitioned over a period of time from soil or from water to the gut of mammals, and therefore they become an important microbiota of the intestine. Total microorganisms that are present in the intestine, often called world of microorganism, or otherwise it is microbiome. Now, lactic acid bacteria has been widely used as a health promoting microorganism. Therefore, it is called probiotics. Probiotics in turn could be defined as a live microorganism which, when administered in adequate quantities, confer the health benefit to the host. Beneficial effect of these probiotics on the gut health of the individual can be manifested through the production of good number of inhibitory substances against the pathogens by producing hydrogen peroxide, bactericins, or organic acids. Therefore, the production of this allows the foreign microorganism to get retracted from the vicinity of the probiotics, and also it blocks the addition sites and it competes for the nutrients. Therefore, the pathogens will be deficient or deprived of the nutrients. Therefore, they must die. They also degrade the toxin receptor of the pathogenic organism. In addition to this, probiotics benefit in improving the immunity of the individual, and they decrease the internal inflammation. Avoid they avoid the food allergy, and they protect the individual from the allergens. Digestive health will be improved to a large extent. They also improve non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and they are also helpful in preventing number of serious diseases in children, such as diarrhea, and they improve the mental health, and they decrease the antibiotic resistance among a number of organisms. They provide healthy skin, lower the blood pressure, and also they are helpful in diabetes treatment. Beneficial properties of ethnically fermented food products and associated microorganisms have been listed here, like dahi, kefir, tofu, komis, then Swiss cheese, nono, Korean kimchi, which contains Lactobacillus acidophilus, different varieties of Lactobacillus species like Plantarum, then Helveticus, and even Saccharomyces cerevisiae are involved. They produce varieties of antibacterial substances and antioxidant properties. Dairy starters can also be used as these microorganisms, and their applications are listed here, like Lactobacillus plantarum or Lactobacillus lactis in producing the bactericins, formation of stabilizers, and excessive production of exopolysaccharides, vitamin content in fermented dairy products. Likewise, finally, they promote the biopreservation or flavor development and formation of the gel. Therefore, they improve the total nutritional level of the food. With this background, in our laboratory, we are focusing on probiotic research for the improvement of human health, like gastrointestinal diseases or disorders, to overcome celiac disease or the colorectal cancer, aflatoxin detoxification, lactose intolerance, or geriatric nutrition. These probiotics or bacteria that are helpful for the human health are being used in improvement of the clinical conditions or enhancement of the nutritional values of the food. Lactose intolerance is one kind of disease condition in young children or adolescents or even in age old, the ability of the individual, when they consume milk, they cannot tolerate it, or immediately various disease manifestation takes place. The symptoms, when especially in young children, the food like milk is considered as a complete food which has been unable, which are unable to be digested by the individual, and therefore the clinical manifestation takes place. This the symptom includes shortness of breath, then nausea or vomiting, and flatulence, allergic rash over the skin, or bloating of the stomach, or even abdominal cramps or diarrhea. So, how to overcome this lactose intolerance? This is by completely avoiding the dairy products, to avoid the intestinal inflammation or inflammatory symptoms, or take up some enzymes which are readily available to avoid the digestive problems, or recently by different research it has been proven that the usage of probiotics and prebiotics mixture would improve the gut health of the individual. This is due to lactose tolerance can be seen in majority of the individuals, but about 21% of the individual often are lactose intolerant. The reason is that in the intestine, when the individual consume the milk, which is rich with the disaccharide called lactose, but not being cleaved by intestinal enzyme, what is referred as lactase, and usually it is converted lactose has been hydrolyzed by to yield glucose and galactose. Further, it was assimilated, absorbed by the larger intestine, smaller intestine, and larger intestine. It would be passed through. However, in lactose intolerant individuals, the lactose has been cleaved, will not be cleaved. However, the in the larger intestine, available bacteria which will ferment the disaccharide to produce varieties of acids and gas. So this fermentation result in the production of abundant amount of gas, which result in flatulence and abdominal uh, discoloration or disintegration. So this will result in thinning up of the large intestine, and this result in lot of the clinical manifestation in the individual. So either by using the digested milk, previously probiotics produced enzymes such as lactose, beta galactosidase enzymes excessively can be produced in the laboratory, and that is mixed with the milk content and digested and then could be consumed, or the organisms, enzymes or the organisms themselves can be taken into the system in order to digest the lactose in the small intestine, and that would result in a beneficial effect. Sir, another one important aspect is aflatoxin detoxification. We are well aware that aflatoxin is a dangerous exotoxin produced by Aspergillus flavus majorly, and Parasiticus and other species also. Organisms, when we consume the food, due to the moisture content during harvesting or some other agency, the organism will be deposited over the food surface, and the aflatoxin could be produced over the foodstuff, and then aflatoxin can cause dangerous effect, and it can result in liver cancer. Especially, there are varieties of aflatoxins that are present. For example, aflatoxin B1, B2, G1, G2, and then GM1, GM2. Likewise, the subsidiary products or the degraded products that are being produced. When we consume the food, the healthful food which result in the healthy liver, and when the aflatoxin is entered into the body, it attacks, it enters into the liver, to the hepatocyte, and cause DNA damage. Let's see how the carcinogenesis takes place. The liver causing damage causing agents would enter into the endoplasmic reticulum, and then they intercalate, and there is a production of the adduct that is taking place. There is a proto-oncogene which gets stimulated by the production of the 2,3 epoxide. by the aflatoxin, and they intercalate, and this activates the oncogene, and that result in the production of cancer cell, especially the proto-oncogenes such as RAS, RAS or MIC or SRC are the main age oncogenes which are being stimulated by the production of the this instigatory or stimulatory aflatoxin. Some of the chemicals even can produce such a disease condition. Here we can see the liver cancer, hepatocellular carcinoma, where aflatoxin B1, which can cause the such a liver cancer, or hepatitis B and C virus can also produce the liver cancer, or alcohol abuse, or hemochromatosis can also produce the cancer cell. Mice liver with the tumor cell, which is shown here, and then when you take a histopathological section, we can see the dilated hepatocyte here, and the necrosis caused cells. Aflatoxin B1 is considered as class 1 chemical carcinogen, produced majorly by Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus parasiticus, and Aspergillus nomeus, and it was first reported during 1960. As I have just told that there are varieties of aflatoxins that are available. Most potent one is AFB1. The chemical structure is shown here. Detection of aflatoxin B1 can be done in the food grains prior to the consumption, when especially during the export area, this aflatoxin B1 would be detected. This is generally in the laboratory through thin layer chromatography or HPLC are the most most common type of detection methods. The mechanism of adduct formation is like this. AFB1, which when enters to the body system, it has a special affinity or a predilection towards the liver cell, and in the cytochrome, they would be transformed to AFQ1 or AFM1 likewise, and primarily in the cytochrome, they will be transformed into aflatoxin 8,9 epoxide. With the activity of epoxide hydrolase and dihydrodiol, it is transformed into a protein adduct or DNA adduct or glutathione conjugate, which when enters into the liver cell, they often block the metabolic pathway and also enhance the expression of the oncogenes, proto-oncogenes. So varieties of methods by using chemicals or physical methods are available. However, biological method by using probiotic is highly beneficial. Basically, lactobacillus species, which can help physically to avoid the attachment of these toxins, or by immunomodulatory activities as shown here. Probiotic bacteria, this bacteria can lodge upon the epithelial cell, and they also effect on the mucosal immunity and also effect on other bacteria. Now we can see here the mucus, actually a dense amount of mucus is necessary in order to eliminate the foreign organism. Now the organisms which are going to be embedded, or they will be attached to the surface of the epithelial cell, retract the, or they act as an addition site for the attachment of these toxins, and therefore would not allow the entry into intraepithelial cell of the intestine. Therefore, the tight junction protein of the intestine will be tightened. Therefore, the possible consequence could be avoided. In our laboratory, we have so in this particular context, we can see that the attachment of the organism here, the cell wall peptidoglycan that we can see here, and the periplasmic space, and this is the AFB1 which is getting attached to the surface of the organism, gram-positive organism, to the lipotecoic acid fiber wall, and then the T-coic acid, and therefore the organisms, this is a microorganism, and attachment to the intestinal cell could be avoided through this what we can show here in this molecular model of the attachment of AFB1 with that of the lactobacillus. In addition to that, in normal grazing animals, generally the grass will be highly contaminated with the chlorophyll and contaminated with the aflatoxins. Through the consumption grazing of the grass, which contains abundant amount of chlorophyll, which can actually detoxify AFB1 naturally. In our study, we have conducted an experiment in combination with the chlorophyll as well as lactobacillus, and this resulted in the combination of binding of lactobacillus aflatoxin B1 binding capacity was observed to good number of organisms in this which has been evaluated through TLC, and we can able to see that standard AFB1 was showing a distinct fluorescence in the lane 1, and later on reduction of the fluorescence is indicated with the formation of a combination or adduct formation with the organism as well as with that of the AFB1. Therefore, what it implies is that the extent of lesser fluorescence indicates the greater amount of attachment of lactobacillus with that of the aflatoxin, and we can see in the lane 1 the efficient organism that is LC5A, which has produced irreversible tight attachment of the lactobacillus to that of the aflatoxins, while the fluorescence has been decreased with other lanes, which has been also analyzed further by HPLC. We can see the peak of AFB1, that the reduced peak with the combination of the aflatoxin and the lactobacillus can be seen with the reduced peak over here, which this particular result have been published in this journal, where in vivo AFB1 detoxification by lactobacillus fermented along with the chlorophyll and immunopotentiating activity in the mice was done. And in also the same similar type of paper has been published in probiotics and antimicrobial products. These probiotics are also helpful in
Excuse me,
eliminating.
ma'am. Is this fine if you are concluding in another 2 minutes, ma'am?
Okay. The probiotics effect on the colorectal cancer was also studied in our laboratory, where we have combined lactobacillus with that of the vincristine, a Catharanthus roseus metabolite, and we could able to see the control of the disease condition to the extent of 80%, and a well-established bifido anaerobic bacteria which could able to control to the level of 30 to 40%. Similarly, a celiac disease is a clinical condition where it is a immunomediated enteropathy, where the individual show the allergy to gluten and result in a gluten indigestion, especially human leukocyte antigen DQ2 and DQ8 haplotypes expressing individuals prone to the gluten allergy in them. So we have developed microorganism, especially probiotics, which can enhance the tight junction proteins, especially the proteases which digest the gluten and make exaggerated response of secretory IgA antibody takes place, and the partially digested gluten which trigger the dendritic cell to activate, and therefore anti-gluten CD4 cell which enhance the production of the anti-gluten B cell, and allergic manifestation takes place through the production of antibody against the foodstuff. We have developed the organism which could able to avoid this particular clinical conditions, and lactobacillus plantarum, and especially the bacillus cereus, which can able to degrade the gluten content, especially gliadin and gluten content, to the level of the standards, below 50 is ideal condition, so that we can develop the food product to that extent, so that the gluten allergic patients can be using this kind of food stuff. In our laboratory, we are also performing the geriatric nutrition development food for the age-old individuals, because gradual in age-old individuals, waning of the gut-brain axis, or the liver function, or skin, or pancreas, and totally the muscle texture or the bone texture would be deteriorated, especially total microbiota in the aged individuals itself will be altered, and therefore the metabolism lowers, resulting in internal inflammation and immunosenescence. So we are on the process of development of the food for age-old individuals. Therefore, they live healthily as long as they are bestowed with the lifespan. Now we are aware that these microorganisms are helpful in promoting the health of the individuals. Good number of probiotic products are available with the different brands in alleviating various types of illness. Number of companies that have come forward to produce especially the Acult, Yosa, Bifit, Soya Treat, yogurt, acidophilus milk. Likewise, a big thing in the market is that the probiotic is booming its market because of the health benefits in the development of therapeutic foods or value-added food stuff, especially total the annual growth rate, that is cumulative growth rate, have been observed to be increasing 6% during 2018 to 24, and in North America or in Germany, it has increased to $800 million, or in China it is $12 million. It has projected to increase by 2024. Therefore, there are good number of food products that are available where the organisms have been incorporated and improvement of health benefit has been reaped. Few technological companies that have come up in providing the probiotics for the health benefit. So what we have developed in our laboratory, like lactobacillus different species, can be useful for various disease, or in the development of food which are helpful in improvement of the total health of the individual, either the infants or lactating mothers or the age-old individuals, or therapy targeted food products which can be enhanced. It is now at the lab scale. We can enhance to the level of the industrial, or what you call a startup project, and therefore we can incubate our idea, and then we can develop and we can make our own entrepreneurship. And in this particular context, all these laboratory developed microorganisms can be made into a library, and we can sell that as a initial starters to make the food products available to mankind at the need in a natural way. So these indigenous technologies definitely help the society at large for the better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. For any questions, please post in the chat box. The questions will be forwarded to you, ma'am, and all the questions will be answered by the ma'am, and those answers will be mailed to you, participants. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving a nice talk.
Thank you.
Now I would like to welcome our next speaker, Harish Sheshadri, Department of Mathematics, IASC Bengaluru. His research areas are geometry of intrinsic matrix in complex analysis, curvature, manifold, and conformal geometric invariant arising in geometry. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you for the invitation. Actually, can you see me?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. So I pressed the microphone and camera buttons, but I don't know why it's not appearing. Can you hear? Oh, you can hear me, right?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Then why isn't the camera coming? Okay, so I try again. Let me do one thing. I'll just log out and log in again.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
For any questions, you can post in the chat box so that questions will be answered by ma'am. Students, participants. Okay, sir, logged in. Sir, we can able to see you, but you are muted, sir.
Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
Now you can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me start. So I'll be talking about applications of mathematics, essentially, in a very general way. But my goal is to just give you a very rough idea. Now, before I begin, I should say that almost everything that I'll be talking about is all very, it's nothing new. The mathematics has been known, the mathematics part has been known for at least 100 years or more. And it's part of every mathematics curriculum in a MSc level. But my point is that it's very helpful to, and yeah, the other thing is that most of the things that I'll be talking about, even if you don't understand the mathematics part, there are software packages which will help you sort of apply do the mathematics for you. But still, I feel that it's important to know a bit of theory behind this software packages, because if something doesn't work, and in order to modify a method, you have to really understand the theoretical parts. And let me just mention. Not enough to run software packages. Sometimes mathematical methods / theory. But the good news is that, well, good news from one point of view. Even if you're not very comfortable with maths, I'll say that a lot can be done. Of course, I put very little in quotation marks. Little by this, I mean that, as I said, all this stuff that I'll talk about is very old material. So it's not really, I mean, you don't need to know state of the art in mathematics. Even with very minimal material, it's amazing that so much can be said about the real world. So let me start with some example. I mean, rather the topics which I have in mind. So, say for example, the first one of the most basic questions is, you are given a function and a variable x, and you would like to know when the for what values of x the function has the value c. So here we are given a function.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, are you writing anything on the screen? Because we cannot.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm very sorry. Yeah, completely forgot to share screen. Yeah. Okay. So let me just. Yeah. So let me just show you what I wrote. So I wrote, not enough to run software packages. Sometimes one has to understand math methods and theory. And then I wrote, the good news is that even with very little maths, a lot can be done. And then now I'm coming to actually what maths I'm talking, the actual content, the mathematical content. So one of the most basic things that one encounters in almost any application is you are given a function f and a value c. I mean, here examples are pointless. Nearly anything will fit into this model. You have a variable and a function, and you would like to know when that function has that, what values of x does the function assume the value c. This is so basic that attempted solutions to this goes back to Newton. One of the most famous ways of finding this
Sir, you are not audible, sir. Excuse me, sir. Sir, your voice is not audible, sir.
Is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I didn't change any settings. I don't know why it suddenly became inaudible. Okay. Yeah. So let me return. So as I said, this is a simple method, but to understand, one has to understand why this method works. And if you are convinced that this is important, I mean, first you have to see why one would like to solve this. But as I said, there are too many examples. So let me move on. This is something very basic. Now, the other thing is linear algebra. This is, if you want to apply mathematics in any form, this is the most basic thing one has to know well. A solid understanding of linear algebra will help in almost any application of mathematics. And again, I'm not going to talk about any specific examples here, but let me just say, in case you're interested in knowing, understand what is it that I mean by linear algebra. I don't mean just starting with a matrix and just working with matrices, row reducing, and so on. That's only very limited content. Rather, you can start with matrices, but then you move to a more conceptual viewpoint. Vector spaces, linear transformations, eigenvalues and eigenvectors, and something called diagonalization of matrices of linear transformation. These topics that I mentioned are very basic, but for one reason or another, usually in courses in India, this only the first one is dealt with. But that's a very limited value, as I said. If you can either by yourself, there are enough good textbooks, but there are online courses. If you can master these other concepts as well, you will be in a very good shape to proceed further as far as applications of mathematics. In fact, one of the things which might end up dominating our lives in the future is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So a key component of that is linear algebra, and the other key component is multivariable calculus. So what does this mean? Well, it just, as the name says, in calculus will be the calculus that we see in our 11th or 12th standard. The setup is that you have a function of one variable, function of one variable. So this is the variable f of x. Multivariable would just mean you have a function which is the input is two variables or more. Of course, I just said two. So in general, you can have f of x1, x2, xn. So it's not surprising that in real life, a function can depend on more than one variable. For instance, in fact, in real life, functions depend on too many variables. Say, for example, if you want to know the GDP, the gross domestic in economic quantity, gross domestic product, GD of a country, it will depend on so many things. So it will depend on many, many variables. And similarly, even more complicated is in the climate sciences, if you want to understand the, say, for instance, the temperature at a point or the chances of rain, that function will depend on many variables. But so it's very natural that functions of many variables or multivariables are considered in real life. And here, the typical question one is interested in is, how do we find points? Points, I mean, in this case, for instance, two variables. How do we find points x comma y where the function attains a maximum or minimum value? So in terms of graphs, you can, if you have a function of two variables, the graph will be, so this is x, y, z. So the graph will be some kind of surface in three-dimensional space. In this picture, it looks like, and then you want to see where the height of the graph is, the biggest or smallest. The biggest would give you maximum value and minimum. How do we find these points? This is a very natural and basic questions. Whenever we have a function, we would like to understand the maximum, how to find maximum and minimum. And so this part of, so one has to know multivariable. So if you recall calculus, the way one variable calculus, the way it is done is you look at points where the derivative is 0 in this case.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, is this fine to conclude in another 2 minutes or 5 minutes, sir?
2 minutes. But when did I start? I thought I started at 11:35, right?
11:30.
30.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I see. Okay, can you please give me a bit more than that? Let's say 5 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. How do we find the point where the function attains maximum? As I said, in the one variable case, you just look at you find the derivative of the function has a role to play. Now in multivariables, again, there is no single derivative. There are what are called partial derivatives. They have a role to play here. How to find these points? So that part of that is dealt with systematically in textbooks or courses on multi. So that is something which I'm just highlighting key points in any topic that you have to know. And then the other thing which you have to know, which is absolutely essential, especially nowadays, is probability and statistics. In fact, these three topics, I started with linear algebra, then I talked about multivariable calculus, then probability and statistics. These three are the key components of machine learning algorithms. And from a mathematical point of view, it is not, it's actually not, it's quite old, but the application is new. Then the fourth topic, since I'm running out of time, I'll have to stop here. is ordinary, this is especially important in biology, ordinary differential equations. So, growth of populations. Now, this topic is, again, while it's not new, it might be by ordinary differential equations. I don't just mean solving equations of, normally when you deal with this, you just given a differential equation and one tries to solve it. That is okay, but that's a very limited value. One has to understand what is called the qualitative theory of this subject. I'll just give one example and stop. So this is called the predator, one example of an ordinary differential predator-prey model. So here it's a differential equation for, so x of t prey population, y of t predator population. So for example, you can think model cases rabbits and foxes. So this is the number of rabbits and this is the number of, y is the number of foxes. So it was discovered a long time ago that obviously if number of one of them grows, say y grows, if too many foxes are there, the rabbit population will go down. But then the fox population will also go down because there's not enough to eat. So likewise, x of t also, it can't grow. So they'll sort of control each other. And then one can write down how the populations behave by this. Derivatives. So the differential equations are minus y, c minus dx. A, B, C, D are some constants which are have to be found out through experiments. But the point is, this system will tell you how each one, and this, even though it's quite amazing that even though the system is almost 150 years old, even now it's being applied. So in the internet, I found that, for example, not just in biology. So somebody has written a paper, growth of 200 mm versus 300 mm silicon chips in Taiwan. Taiwan is one of the leading manufacturers of chips, processor chips in the world. And the model, if so the 200 mm, the 300 mm is this oldest, slightly older one. So how these two compare industries? So this, they found out that this can be modeled by this kind of differential equations. The number of 200 mm chips, you call it x of t. The other one you call y of t. And then it turns out that at least for some time, it could be modeled by these systems. So what my point is that even though these are all very old models and so on, it's the applications are still there. You have to understand when to, but, and it's not enough to, and all these things can be done by software packages, but that's will only give you a very shallow understanding. Not even any understanding actually. So if you can read a bit more, then you will have in a good position to apply mathematics actually. So let me stop here, since the other things I had in mind were graph theory, which is used in a lot in computer science, and abstract algebra, which is used in cryptography. So, but then I also had some advanced topics in mind, but these are the more elementary topics, which are of great use. So let me stop here.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
For any questions, participants can put your questions in the chat box. The questions will be forwarded to sir, and all the questions will be answered to.
Okay, thanks.
We'll go for the next session. Um, that is Professor Ranjani Vishwanath. Ranjani Vishwanath is a assessors nanoplasmosis and synthesis of novel materials. She is a recipient of C.V. Raman State Award for Chemical Science. Welcome to you, ma'am.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
1 second, I'm just trying to share my slide. Are you able to see my slides?
It is loading, ma'am. Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'll just get started with my topic. My topic for today is nanomaterials, the journey from laboratory to industry. Um, And at the outset, I would like to thank KSCST for inviting me for giving this talk. So before I get into the nanomaterials, I want you to kind of understand like why we need this. So how many of you would have heard of theory of relativity? As you can imagine, it's quite an, I mean, it came about early on in early 1900s. And when it came on, nobody thought that this is what you would end up using it. I mean, there are, of course, many basic fundamental phenomena that you can understand from theory of relativity. But today's world literally runs on satellite navigation. All your Google Maps and everything literally works on satellite navigation. And this couldn't have been possible without the theory of relativity. So you can imagine that basic science to actual real world applications can take quite a long time, but basic science is very relevant to find out the applications. Today, I'm not going to talk about this application, but I'm going to talk about something else that we have been looking for and how you bridge the gap between academics and industry expectations. Why do I need to bridge the gap between academics and industry expectations? Because most often you are already aware of the theoretical knowledge by the time you graduate out. You know what are the trends, you know all the tried and tested methods, and you know what are the strategies. At least this is what the colleges and many other institutes teach you. Many times students end up setting up unrealistic expectations, and that you may be the topper in the class, but that's not enough to survive, because there are many other things that are required for an industry. And that is what what does an academic research target? Basically, it is research designed to answer scientific questions. It involves hypothesis driven research, and it begins with basic observations and bases the rest of the results based on the hypothesis of these observations, and designs experiments so that that can be better understood. But when you go to R&D research, I mean like industrial research, the ultimate purpose is to generate profit, and it usually takes advantage of existing technology to generate a product, and effort is focused on utilizing these advances from the academic research to engineer the product. Effort is focused on selecting advances that are viable adaptations of academic research, and to market the product, of course. So what you have learned in college is becomes just the alphabets in real life. So and also you can see that once you get in line with what the previous speaker was talking about, once you say that, okay, I solved this impossible problem, academic says, oh, you can get so many papers, you can get a thesis, you can get some paragraph in a textbook. But business starts looking, okay, don't jam it, this is very good, but don't jam the system. While you're fix this and see whether it is in sync with other systems. So the success factors that are considered most important in academics and industry are very different, and they can also have different perceptions. So today I'm going to discuss among the various topics one little story as to, I'm sure many of you by now have seen this image or variants of this image, wherein you use quantum materials, quantum dots, to go from blue to red. And how from these test tubes did they end up in this quantum dot TVs. So this story, I'm going to just give an example from the basic science and its evolution into what happens. So the first obvious observation is you need a semiconductor. And when you have a semiconductor, you excite it by giving some energy. It goes to higher energy state and emits some light. And if you're able to control this, and as you can see in this, let me just highlight the pointer. Mm, I guess all of you can see the pointer, right? So when you see here that if you give, this is the band gap of the material, and if you give a lot more energy, it will still emit in the band gap of the material. And if you give less, it doesn't emit anything. So if you are able to control the band gap of the material, then you can tune the light emission. This is the basic phenomena with which it started. And in quantum dots, it's very easy to control the band gap without changing anything else, because as a function of size, the band gap changes. So you can see here that as I keep decreasing the size within that confinement regime, I'm not going to go into details of that now as to why that is happening, but you can see that the band gap starts to increase by moving the two bands away. And this is very well seen in this kind of an image, wherein you can see that it is very brightly colored. And in order to see how far you can go, you can literally tune it anywhere you want. This is the IR region going from the same material, going from 950 nanometers to about 4000 nanometers. So you can literally tune it. But will you end up getting something like this here, these bright colors? That is the question. So what you expect is this, while what you end up most often is this. What I mean is the intensity of this is so low that it cannot be really marketed. Why does this happen? So this happens because although you see these crystals here, which are to me looking very perfect, nice rectangles. But if you expand on those, you can see that there are lots of defects on these surfaces. And nanocrystals are notorious, wherein the defects control the fluorescence. That's mainly because it's a very small particle, as you can see here. If you go from here to here, you can see that there is, and the number of particles are very small. So the number of particles on the surface are very large compared to the volume. And if they are defective, then it controls the fluorescence, because they are much more effective in capturing the excited electrons. So why do defects in nanoparticles happen? Because the way nanoparticles are made is you cut it, you break it, you chip it, you grind it till you have a very fine powder. So because of all these stresses, you do have surface defects. But what makes nanocrystals so special is because they are so small. For example, in this crowd behavior, you can see that overall there is one single emotion, one direction, but there are defects like these which are present and very important. You cannot ignore the effect of defects. But overall, you can still see that everybody else is moving in one direction. There is one emotion, and these small defects are minimal. But nanoparticles have this problem. So you can see that nanoparticles is something like a rugby team, wherein you can see that they just are hitting each other in various directions, and there is no one coherent direction because it is so small a number. The number of particles, each of these men are called one particle, and you can see that there is no coherence. So because of this, nanoparticle defects are much more relevant. So you can see that here, you don't even know where the surface is. You don't even know where the defects is. They are very nicely ordered. But here, and as you keep going smaller and smaller, you can see that defects become very important. But are all defects equally problematic? That is the question. So in order to study that, we just looked at these material. Both of them are CDSC nanoparticles. So you can see that if you see, these are the lattice planes. Some of them are ordered in this direction, some of them in this direction. So they're very randomly ordered. In contrast, if you see these particles, you see that there are regular defects at regular intervals of time in definite directions. So there are two kinds of defects. One is an extended defect and one is a local defect. So how do we deal with them? So this extended defect is what I consider mostly a nice cadmium selenide. These local defects are these random surface defects. So are they equally bad? Let us have a look at it. So let me see here. So what happens is, by themselves, they're equally bad. But if I can overcoat it with CDS, another system, which means CDSC has a specific lattice length, CDS has another lattice length. So when they're intersecting with each other, obviously there will be a lot of strain, which means a defect. So that interfacial defect is something which is different. Whereas in this case, which had a lot of defects to start with, those defects try to anneal out with heat and they move away. And when you look at the basic science, you see that these interfacial defects have a very strong change of momentum, because energy and momentum needs to be conserved, and because of which this change of momentum can actually create a huge barrier in fluorescence. Whereas when you see this diffuse structure, you see that because of this diffuse structure, you can see that momentum is gradually decreasing, and when it hits the wall, the momentum change is very minimal. So going with the very basics of energy conservation and momentum conservation, you can see that actually you cannot have a transition like this. So in order to have this transition, you need to make sure that both of them are conserved. So if you have a smooth interfacial potential, then you can get better fluorescence out of these systems. And how do we do that? We use diffusion. What is diffusion? You just allow the sheep, open up the gate, and the sheep will diffuse out into the system. And the exact same principle of osmosis. And what I am trying to tell is, while the first case is almost like this, even if you tie a lot of books on your head, the information is not going to diffuse into your brain. Whereas if you open up the gates, then it can diffuse very easily. So what I show is an actual research problem, which we did about 10 years ago. So wherein we showed that we build up core shell dots. One of the important parameters here is heating it for this long hours for each shell, remember. So whole synthesis can last about 24 hours and at high temperature. So when we do that, you eventually get this CDSC CDS, which is overcoated nicely. It is almost like having a lifeboat. But now your lifeboat is very nice. You cannot have water percolating through it. So you will still see a very hard bound this thing. But in some cases, this CDSC 4 is, there are a lot of holes. When I say 4, what I mean is the quantum yield is 4%. And when I say 8, quantum yield is 8%. So obviously people thought if you start with a better quantum yield, you overcoat it, you will get even brighter quantum yield. And if you have a smaller quantum yield, you overcoat it, the quantum yield will be less. But what we did find is we had to find something which you could use for lasing. And this is an example of lasing wherein you have this at red, and slowly if you give very high power because of lasing and because of no loss of any other system, you will see that this is actually decreasing I mean, you are seeing yellow, green, like in these cases. So basically, the first question that an academician would ask is what happened? Where did the OJ recombination go? Because this is what would happen otherwise. What's the size of the nanocrystals? Was it because of the charges were separated? Do you have an exciton repulsion? These are the kind of questions that I would ask. But industry would like to translate it into device. Can I change the surface? Can I process it better? How efficient are my LEDs? So is it because we are growing a thick shell, or is it because we heat the sample? So what happens when you anneal it is we need to characterize these defects, and that's what we do. So this is kind of a fluorescence decay to show how it is. So all these early timescales would tell you that there are a lot of defects. If you are seeing a lot of this early timescale decay, it means that there are a lot of defects because they are very efficient in capturing this electron. So you can see that there is a CDSE4 is very low in intensity, very fast decay, and CDSE8, which is a quantum yield of 8%, is more better. So obviously by using common knowledge, sorry, this is CDSE, not TE, we started overcoating. And you see when you overcoat, yes, you do see an increase, and you see that from 8% it has gone up to 50%, which is a substantial increase. But when I use CDSE4, I see that initially the 4% has now gone to 100%, which really captures our imagination as to why this can happen. And we try to see what happens here. And when you look at this thing, you see that even in the overcoated CDSE CDS, you see that there are these finite extended effects which are still retained because of the boundary walls. Even after several annealings, the boundary walls are not vanishing. Whereas initially this was defects in all directions, the local defects, which got diffused into it and forms a nice crystal. So this nice crystal is very important to get this 100% quantum yield. And so we learned a very important lesson that defective cores are very suitable for defect-free high quantum yield core-shell quantum dots. And you see that higher the defects, it is more efficient. Lower defects, like even if you take 16%, it is not that efficient. So what we did at the academic level is we decided to make an LED out of it. So we did do an LED under this structure. We put the quantum dots as an active layer, and we could see that it was nicely emitting, like quite strongly. And you can see that actually it is the LED efficiency is exponentially or non-linearly proportional to its if quantum yield. So when you have very low quantum yield, it is not at all efficient. Little higher, it is efficient, but not as efficient as 100% quantum yield. And that could be seen very nicely, brightly in this LED. And this is where we were happy to say, okay, fine, we know what if this happens. And if I go to CDT, CDS, I can actually, the interest is that I want to do energy efficient materials with the same material. I can tune if it is a sharp interface, then I will make it a solar cell kind of material for a photovoltaic. If it's a diffuse interface, I will use it for a LED within the same material. So this is my this thing, and this is where an academician would say bye-bye. But this is not an actual bye-bye, because the industry challenges begins now. Now that I have this, these are very sensitive to scale. The first important parameter that someone has to look up is to process the scale, and then all the other technological issues like, what is, how is it affecting the environment? Can we use the same material? Do we need to process the material? Is it processable? It's not only enough to have the material. This is just to give you an idea of the scale. The one on the left here is a lab scale, and this is the industrial scale that you would, this is the primary industrial scale. You may have to scale up even more. And can I process this material? Meaning, can I put it as a thin film? Does it adhere on these materials? How is the flexibility? How is the transparency? How to incorporate in actual materials? And many, many more such questions. So you can see the questions are very, very different. When you go through this entire process, the fundamentals are very necessary. When I said in the beginning that you need to have a fundamental understanding. However, once you have a fundamental understanding, there are many other questions which takes into account that you have understood this, and from there build up the structure. So, and from doing all of that, you get the TV that I talked about. As of now, it's still some way to go, because as you can imagine, the quantum.tvs have come out, but it's still quite expensive. So the question of money, everything comes into picture. So industry has a long way to go. And I'll thank you for your attention. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat box so that ma'am will answer all the questions. Madam, there is no questions, I guess. If we receive any other questions, I will forward it to you, ma'am. Thank
Sure.
you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now I would like to welcome P.V. Shivaprasad, Associate Professor, NCBS, Bengaluru. Welcome to you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the kind invitation. Can you see my slides?
We can see your screen, sir, not a slide.
Okay, you can see my slide.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah, can you see the next slide?
yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the office bearers of KSCST. Second. You can still see my slide? Not yet.
No, sir, not yet.
Okay. Second. Can you see now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about genetics and epigenetics of crop domestication. You don't have to know about genetics and epigenetics to listen to my talk. If you know about crop domestication, that's more than enough. And that also I'm going to tell you what it is. Okay. So if you have any question in the middle, please you feel free to stop and ask me. So can you see my pointer?
No, sir.
No?
No.
Something is bugging. Give me 1 second. Let me see why it's not coming up. No, right? Something is happening. I'm sorry, 1 second. Let me try again.
I think you need to share your presentation slideshow, not the file itself.
Yeah. Usually it works. Something is. No.
Yes, sir. Open the PowerPoint, sir.
Yeah, it's already open.
You also put it in slideshow mode.
Share your screen and whatever the PowerPoint which is minimized, you can open it and put it in a slideshow mode, sir.
No, it's.
Make it full screen, sir.
We can able to see the PPT, sir.
Okay, but
Go to
can you
next
see the
slide.
next slide also?
No, go to slideshow mode, sir. Yeah, slides are moving. So
Yeah,
you can put a slideshow mode, sir. F5.
now it's fine. You can see the next slides,
No, sir.
or it's the first slide only.
First slide only.
Oh.
Sir, you share the entire screen.
Yeah, I'm sharing the entire screen. That's what I had done, but it's not.
Yeah, now you open that PPT, sir, which is minimized,
Yeah,
and go to slideshow.
yeah, I did that.
Yeah, now it is showing, sir.
But is it going to the
Yeah.
next slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so we continue to depend on plants for food, for clothing, medicines, and shelter. So definitely you all remember we all depend on food because we consume every day. Clothing, you might have forgotten, but most of our clothing comes from plants. Medicine, even in the COVID times, most of our new medicines or the old medicine, they're all mostly plant derived, and of course for shelter. So the urgent need is to have climate resilient crops, and that's our aim now, to get more of all these food or clothing or medicine or shelter, and that too in a sustainable manner. So this is quite challenging because this is like asking a two-wheeler to carry 2 tons of weight. It's already crumbling to carry this much. So our aim is to further improve the yield in all difficult conditions such as climate change. So what we know is that incremental knowledge is not enough to make plants to produce more of all these compounds. So first we have to understand why is that plants make all these. So plants make all these because they want to have a very good interaction with animals. So this is the sort of a representation to show when exactly plants evolved. So during the time of all our famous dinosaurs, there were no flowering plants. Okay, so this is roughly 100 million years ago. We Dinosaurs didn't enjoy the flowers or the fruits from the plants. So this is the time some plants, they tricked animals to spread their pollens by making offering colorful flowers. So that is for pollination to improve the chance. There were new species created, and at the same time they also started making these fruits with lot of nutritious content, which helped them with the dispersal. So this is sort of birth of the angiosperms or the flowering plants, and this is like a abominable mystery even for somebody like Darwin, who knew answer for most things. So this is the single most reason why plants produce what I listed in the previous slide. So they want to interact with animals. They started making all the chemicals. They were already very good in making photosynthesis, that is division of making oxygen from water, which we struggle to do in lab. So once they did it, the plants really flourished well. Animals also flourished well because they have a assured source of food. And this continued for millions of years until some plants which did not have very good flowers, such as the current day crops, they used us to dominate the earth. So you can have either, we can say we domesticated crops, or we can say crops used us to dominate the earth. Whichever the way it is, this is the birth of modern agriculture roughly 10,000 years ago. We removed most of the natural vegetation in the face of the earth, and started planting some of these plants. Most of them are here. So these are the most abundant macroorganism on earth right now. Among them, rice is like a real champion. So why cereals? Cereals produce a lot of carbohydrate, and carbohydrate doesn't go bad, unlike protein. So it provided us with assured food for a long time. So we also evolved much better. We spread more. Our numbers kept on increasing. Even now, it is increasing. So in this sort of co-evolution where both we and the crops evolved, in this bargain, so there is more grains for us, we have the food security, but dominance in numbers as well as pampering is for the crops. So what do I mean by saying pampering? Many plants such as brassicas, if you don't go and take care of them every single day, they are not going to produce any fruits. So among them, I mentioned rice is the most abundant macroorganism, more than most of the grasses, because each of the plant is coming from a single seed. So this is one of the most abundantly grown crop plant in the world. So how did rice come to this stage? So the wild species of rice is nothing but a weed which is in the lakes, which I showed here as wild relative. For those of you who are wondering what wild relatives are, think about us. Our wild relatives are monkeys, right? So primates. So same way, rice had such plants which were in the edge of lakes. They still present in the edge of lakes in some places, including in Karnataka. So these plants are perennial. They will be sort of half floating, and then they have few leaves and few grains. And like order of the nature, most of the grains when they mature, they fall off. From these plants, we are now converted into cultivated rice that relatively requires much less water. Still, we complain it is around 3,000 liters of fresh water to make 1 kg of rice. These plants have strong stems, they have a lot of leaves compared to their wild species relatives, and they can also hold a lot of grains. And these grains stick to the plant so that we can harvest all at once, and this gives our food security. So many of these plants are still grown in the edge of lakes, such as in this picture. This is from Uttara Karnataka, and these you can see they are like weeds, okay? And indica rice that we grow in our country comes from Oryza nivara. Rice is Oryza indica. So Oryza nivara is the wild species. You can think about it's like monkey to whatever man. Oryza rufipogon is the ancestor of Japonica, and Javanica rice has two other subtypes of rice that are grown in mostly Japan, China, as well as in the Southeast Asia. So these plants, they are still useful because they have crop resilience, but they cannot make much of the grain. So one thing that has interested researchers in the last many decades, maybe 8 decades or so, is what has changed in rice from these weed-like plants to make them such plants which can hold lot of grains so that we got our food security. So if you think about any change, such change in any living organism, obviously you'll be thinking about changing the genome. So whether the ATGC, the 4 digits that code for all the proteins, all the changes, is it because of their change we have such a domestication? So very few changes are associated with domestication of crops, not just in plants, but also in animals. So the one example I can say why this is important is from many breeding work, we know there are around 200 yield-related QTLs in rice, which are important for rice yield, but only 8 genes have been identified. We just don't know what else is really changed during domestication. So what is important to note is that genetic changes, the changes in the sequence, DNA sequence, are not proportional to changes in the phenotypic diversity. That means if you have bigger grain, small grain, changed in the flavor or etc., it's well known from Rachel Mayer and Purganan's landmark study is that they are nothing to do with the change in the DNA. So we proposed, is it something to do with not really genetics, but because of epigenetics? Now, what is epigenetics? So DNA, you are all familiar with it. DNA is our book of sort of recipe. From this book of recipe, there is certain ways to copy certain specific recipes so that you can make specific dishes called protein. And if there are 50,000 such books of recipes, most of the time we'll be making around 10 to 20,000 different dishes all the time. So in plants, this will be somewhat of similar number. All these recipes are not copied all the time. All these genes don't express all the time. And that's mostly because there are these switches to say which recipe to take when. And one of the such switch is called small RNAs. These are the ones which can go and tell which DNA should be copied to make RNA or which RNA should be kept so that you make the right dishes. And part of this research has already obtained a Nobel Prize. Mello and Fire, they got Nobel Prize after like doing this experiment after 5 years. They immediately got the Nobel Prize. So what is important is that if you have this pathway where you have RNA making to a double-strand RNA-like structure, and this double-strand RNA structure then is cut into small RNAs. These small RNAs get into organoid proteins. And once these organoid proteins are there, they can go and do different things. One of them is to change this property of DNA in such a way that there will be methylation of DNA or histone modifications. So this property is quite important because this is called as epigenetics. This is also called as transcriptional silencing. And this change is heritable. That means if you somehow make these changes, the change will be propagated in the subsequent generation in the seeds of the plants. One part of this pathway, when you have specific organoid protein having specific small molecules, they can go and cut the RNA into two bits. Here the bits are, so the complementarity here is Watson-Crick complementarity. A has to pair with U, G has to pair with C. If there is good complementarity, it can cut the RNA into two bits. So this is the kind of pathway we are thinking about. This is the kind of pathway that is made up of, that is leading to epigenetics in plants. So in our lab, we try to understand how most of these processes work in the last 8 years or so, but I'm going to talk about one specific thing. So before I move there, I want to show what exactly is changing when you have this DNA methylation and histone modification, something I mentioned here as the basis for epigenetics. So what's changing here is DNA, the book of recipe, is coiled around this protein octamers called histones. So these are very tiny proteins and DNA is coiled around them. And how exactly this DNA is coiled around is the one which decides which dish to copy, which recipe to copy, or which RNA to be transferred from which gene at what time. So why this is important is that histones have these small tails on the outside, and these tails can get post-translational modifications. That means there are small chemical changes in them. And if you make these changes along with changes to the DNA, now this whole chromatin can either compact. If it is compacted, you can't copy the recipe, you can't transcribe RNA. If it is relaxed, then you can copy the RNA and make the right proteins. So such a epigenetic mechanism is very well understood. It is really important for a lot of changes in plants and animals, such as I'm sure you have heard about honeybee. So why is that honeybee queen is different from others? Because it is fed with royal jelly, which is one of those things that change how the property of these histones, the small chemical changes I mentioned, are made or not. So between queen or worker or between nurse and forager, these are the different type of honeybees. The DNA is same, but which protein to make is bound by these chromatin changes, how exactly this DNA is compacted or not. So you make the right protein. If you make the right protein, somebody becomes queen. If you don't make the right protein, they become a worker. Okay, so in one of my earlier studies, so what we found is that in crops as well, if you get a hybrid, let's say you have two parents here, cross them to make a hybrid plant, this plant, and from this you keep on growing the subsequent generation to make this great granddaughter lines. So Solanum pennelly is the wild species of rice from which tomato was cultivated, tomato was domesticated. So from F1, if you go back to downstream many generation, you start getting these new phenotypes that are not present in both Solanum pennelli and Solanum lycopersicum. These are called heritable transgressive phenotypes. So even Darwin wondered why exactly such things happen. And we showed that such changes, which are really different from both the parents, it's like the offspring is completely different from both the parents, and those changes are heritable in the subsequent generation. They are because of small RNAs and epigenetics. Okay, so we thought with this background, maybe rice domestication change from this VD plant to cultivated rice. Maybe there is contribution of small RNA and epigenetics. To do that, we collected two wild species of rice from India. around 380 land races. Land races are plants that are intermediate between cultivated rice that we grow now and wild species, as well as we collected 12 high-yielding rice lines. We did very difficult phenotyping and finally selected 12 lines and started looking what has changed, whether it is change in the DNA, whether it's change in the small RNA, or whether it's change in the histone marks that I mentioned. So one major thing we found, which is found by Shweta Chenna, one of the PhD students who is now moved to Copenhagen, what she found is that you get these small RNAs, which are typically 21 or 24 nucleotide length, very short bits, 24 digits, ATGC I mentioned, right? So just 21 bits, they act as these switches, and typically in any plant, you get 21 and 24 bits of this small RNA. But in wild species of rice, we got suddenly lot of 22 bits. You might be wondering why this change of one nucleotide should change so much. One nucleotide is very important small RNA because it gives exactly what to regulate which protein to copy and make protein or not. So in wild species, you got a lot of these 22 nucleotide small RNAs, which is unlike what we saw with land races and cultivated indica rices. So when we went back to see where these changes happened, why exactly you get different population of small RNA, we found that the change is in one chromosome, that is chromosome 2, rice has 12 different chromosomes, and the change is between certain markers. We mapped a new type of a small RNA. This small RNA really very, very abundant, reads of 120,000, that's really lot of this small RNA in wild species and almost nothing in cultivated species. So if you look at this analysis, so this is called northern analysis, you can see in wild species, Vorrhea nivara, which is like the wild species, wild relative of cultivated rice, you have a lot of expression of this small RNA, which can be seen with the density of these bands. Whereas in cultivated species like white ponni or Pusa basmati, you hardly accumulate these small RNAs. So what is the target of this small RNA? So usually small RNAs tend to go and cut the RNA, complementary RNA into 2 bits. In rice, so this set of small RNAs ended up targeting genes called as lacases. So lacases are important to make lignification. So lignin is the second most abundant organic polymer on Earth. The first one is, anybody remembers? It's cellulose. So lignin comes from a pathway called phenyl propanide pathway. And to convert from these monomers of alcohol to polymers of lignin, you need lactase enzymes. So this is the one which provides mechanical strength to plants. This is the one which helps plant to come from aquatic system and conquer the land mass. So in rice, there are many such genes of lacases, and we found that the small RNA that we found targets many of them. It can go and make pairing with the mRNA, that is the one I was mentioning, the copy of the DNA. It can cut the RNA into 2 bits so that these enzymes are not made. Though these lacases are in different parts, so this is a phylogenetic tree, they're all different from each other a bit, but still they are cut by the same microRNA sequence is somewhat similar. So in lacase expression, so in wild species, I mentioned that the accumulation of small RNA is very high. So what do we expect the expression of lacase to be? Lacase is the target. So if there is more accumulation of small RNA, you expect less accumulation of lacases. That we saw with this RNA-seq experiment. All these bits represent abundance of the RNA. In cultivated species, you can see there is very high abundance of this transcript. Together, because these enzymes are more, cultivated species make more lignin, whereas wild species have less lignin. In the samples in the stem sections, you can see the staining is for fluoroglycinol, so which can be simply stained by chopping the stem, put them in the stain. More stain means you get more color. So less color in wild species because wild species have less lignin, whereas in cultivated species you get much more coloration. So we also purified this protein with concanaline column. These are glycoproteins. So one way of purification, it again showed that cultivated species like Pusa basmati have more lignin. So what has happened? So we thought this is like a very important domestication event. That means from wild species which are like weeds, we got this cultivated rice. In wild species, you have one of the small RNA expressing a lot, so that lactase is down. And because lactase enzyme is down, plants make it less lignin. They in fact don't need much lignin because they are semi-aquatic plants. They float around in the edge of the lakes. Plants are prostrate, they have closed panicles, they have also seed shattering, seed falls off once it is mature. From these plants, we now have this cultivated rice, which you can see has happened only because microRNA is not abundant anymore. The lactases express more. Because lactase express more, they make more lignin, which can support very strong panicle. You must have seen some of these plants are so thin, they'll have a panicle which is 1 foot long. They'll move in the wind, but they don't fall, right? So that strength to the stem has come from lignin, and that improved lignification happened because the switch is altered in cultivated species. So we have patented this because we can now suddenly improve the rice yield manifold. So to prove whether exactly this is what happened, what we did was we brought this high expressing microRNA from the wild species, put them into the cultivated species. So this can be done by transgenesis, that is by developing transgenic plants. So our lab is one of the probably only one that can do indica rice transformation now in the world. So we transformed rice, and from these plants, you can see now the transgenic plants, they have more of small RNA, they have less lignin, and because there is less lignin, they don't have mechanical stability. They're all like floppy, they are all falling off because they are not strong. And these plants could not make any seeds. Now, what will happen if you express this lactase enzyme? So if you express a lactase enzyme, plants are very strong. They also made more seeds per panicle, and they also setting rate of seeds, how much seeds to make, improved by 50%, suggesting that just this one change is important or enough to make a lot of change in yield. So we wondered why is that people did not find such an important change. We went back to those 200 QTLs regions which are identified for rice, but nobody knows which genes are altered. We went back and started mapping them back to see whether lactases and microRNA overlap. And in one go, we got 26 of the remaining mapping to lactases and microRNA. So if I put into this such a chart, this is what was known genes, and this is what we identified. This is the microRNA, these are lactases. Many such regions in the genome had only lactases. Okay? So we got very good comments, very good coverage in newspapers everywhere. And our paper was the topmost trending for 2.5 months in a prestigious journal called Plant Cell. So in our lab, we also try to improve other aspects, not just nutrition, not just amount of grains, but also nutrition. Using grapes, all these 3 grape varieties, Bangalore Blue, you're all familiar. This is the black grape that we get in Bangalore. Red Globe is the red one, and Dilkush has lot of flavonols, whereas Red Globe and Bangalore Blue have lot of anthocyanins. So we found that by studying the RNA, studying the DNA and the protein, what exactly makes this fruit to have color, which fruits are colorless, and the change is because of one small RNA regulating set of transcription factors called MIP transcription factor. If these transcription factors express freely, you get the coloration in grapes. And we see that the same is happening with apple, strawberry, as well as peach. But if it is not expressing because of microRNAs, the plants make flavonols, which are quite useful again, but we and other animals, we don't like colorless fruits. So if you go to any marriage and if somebody keeps you 20 fruits, you will pick the ones which are most colorful. So we and birds again pick the ones which are more colorful, and in a way, our domestication helped these fruit crops. Okay, so we are just like you are all familiar with the mobile phone. So we are in whatever 5G. The crop also in the 4G design breeding stage. So we had the pre-green revolution, that's just by selection by our ancestors. We had the green revolution. We had the second green revolution mostly because of marker assisted selection and biotechnology. Now what we have is design by big data and knowledge driven, as well as a technique called genome editing. You can just change small things in the genome. So this is in this current state. We are able to produce lot of grain, but our population is really increasing dramatically. So we have to really go and do what is here, genome editing and design by big data. Some of what we have done matches with what is required. But if you look at the most innovative plants of 2020, 2021 list is yet to come out. You can see Adoro tomato, it has lot of anthocyanin. Alero potato is a combination of sweet potato plus potato, but it is not sweet, so you can get lot of provitamin A. So you have broccoli, which has lot of anthocyanin. You have soybean with lot of anthocyanin, zora with lot of terpenes and antioxidants. So this is one of the corn. You can see how big it is. It is the only one. It's not nutritional, but it makes lot of food for us and for animals that feed on the leaves. So here you can see there is nothing to really make sure climate resilient plants can be made. So the time immediate future, we have to increase 55% increase in food without counting reduced area, climate change, or reducing goal of agri emissions. We can do this very easily. We can change some genes, find the domestication associated genes such as the ones which you identified, like lacases. We can design this target and make in 5 to 8 years, something that we have done for rice and grape. But we can also combine these properties and make single plants, which will take 8 to 15 years. So this step is quite difficult. This needs what is called as genome editing. So Chinese researchers have converted wild species of tomato to cultivated species by changing these 4 genes in one go, and suddenly they have a plant which can hold a lot of grain. In our lab, we have genome edited lines in rice. So these 3, the first one is the control. Next 3 are edited lines. Do you see any change? They're all green. They don't bend the leaf, and they were also resistant to a lot of climate changes such as drought. So in our lab, we also have developed a system which can help plants to even under less nitrogen or more nitrogen, they can absorb more nitrogen from roots, and then they can have a lot of roots which can help them to manage different stresses. So in such genes, if we put them even in some related plants, sir, yeah, yes, ma'am. Only 1 minute I need.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. So even if you put in any plant, such as in tobacco, you can get lot of roots, such as shown here for tobacco. So what is surprising is that we take all our calorie from around just 8 to 10 plants. Whatever we eat, even the animals that we eat depend on only those crops. But we have around 3 lakh edible plants. I think it is important that we should start using other plants which are also edible. So because the immediate future is that we have already see water scarcity, rising temperature, lots of problems. By 2050, we are going to import more than twice the amount of food grain that would be required without climate change. So we are already importing a lot of pulses and you know about vegetable oils. So what can be done is we have to crop diversify. That means start eating things which we may not like to eat right now, but they're also nutritive. So we can make better use of water and better soil management, and we can develop climate resilient crops which need some training. But almost all of us can start thinking about other things that we all can do together. So just to end with this, so this is the food that you eat. You may be knowing this food needs 2,500 liters of water, whereas this is sort of a food which is mostly from local vegetables, grains, and here water requirement is just 400 liters, and this is way more nutritive than what we are currently eating. So we could make this change and help the country. We could also start going back to, so TEF is really important. important because it is the one which marathon runners like, and this is not very different from ragi, which we could consume and have better nutritional security. So there's a lot of myth in food industry. Definitely, apple a day doesn't keep doctor away. So compared to our poor guava, guava is 20 times more nutritive than apple. So with this, I would like to thank lab members. They call themselves EpiPepis. So these are the people who have moved on. I talked about Shweta's and Varsha's work. So Professor David Balcombe is the one who discovered small RNAs. Professor Veltambi, these are two my source of inspiration. Professor Veltambi is the pioneer in transgenics in our country. So funding comes from DAE for our institute, that is National Center for Biological Sciences, and I have funding from DBT as well as DST. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat box.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll go for the next speaker, Professor Arun Mohan Islu. Professor Arun Mohan Islur is a professor at NITK, and his area of interest are membrane technology, medical chemistry, nanomaterials, organic synthesis, organic electronics, and he is a recipient of C.V. Raman Young Scientist State Award. Over to you, sir.
Hello, am I audible, madam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. It was very nice to hear a lecture from eminent scientist, Professor Shiv Prasad just now. For the next 20 minutes, I'll be speaking about chemistry for Atmanirbhar Bharat. And first of all, I would like to thank the KSCST, Department of Science and Technology, Government of Karnataka, for providing this wonderful platform to interact with young scientists of our country. And of course, my acknowledgements to Director of NITK Suratkal, present Director is Professor Uday Kumar Yargatti, for his wholehearted support in any of our ongoing research activities here in NITK. Please, can I request you to mute? Okay, thank you. And also my thanks to Department of Atomic Energy, Board for Research in Nuclear Sciences, DRDO, Department of Information Technology, and Vision Group on Science and Technology for their generous funding. And because of their generous funding, we could did some work related to the membrane related research as well as medicinal chemistry research here in NITK Suratkal. And of course, last but not the least, I would like to thank all my group members present as well as former group members for their hard working as well as contribution to our ongoing research. Yeah, just the couple of one slide which I have included as inspiration. Every one of us can learn a lot of things from the our nature. So nature is an inspiration for all of our research, I can say. The first picture, this is the bird called godwit bird. This bird, it's a migratory bird. During the season, it migrates from Alaska to the New Zealand. and the distance between the Alaska to New Zealand, that is about 12,000 plus kilometer. And this 12,000 plus kilometer, which will be covered by this bird without any taking rest for a minute. About 9 days, it covered completely the about 12,000 plus kilometer distance. So that is a really inspiration to all the scientific community. And the other picture, you can see here the weaving bird. This is also another wonder from the of our nature, where we can learn many things. Yeah. And the theme for our this particular today's event, that is basic science and Atmanirbhar Bharat. And the title of my talk is chemistry, because I am personally, as I'm from chemistry department, and also as our ongoing research is in the field of chemistry and chemical engineering. So the title of my talk is chemistry for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Before I go into any further details, let us compare the economy of between the India and China. About 35 years back, the economy of China and India, we were almost at par. Then later you can see how there is a huge, tremendous gap which went on developed between this is the in terms of high technology exports. So the red indicates this is from the China and this is from the India. And even in the next slide, you can see the data is up to about 2017. So after that, slowly, now it is coming down. This particular gap is coming down. Only with Atmanirbharata or with self-reliant India, we can definitely overcome China in the next few years. And this is the number of patents which are filed by India, China, as well USA, United States of America. The green color which indicates USA. So during 2000 and until up to about 2008-9, United States of America, they were actually dominating in terms of filing the patents, annual patents. And then you can see here the slowly after 2009, slowly China started to dominating in this particular field, and our India is still, we are here, the blue color. And during 2019, about India has filed about approximately 14,961 patents, whereas from China alone, this is about 1,24,000. 45,709, and from the United States, this is the number. Of course, now there is a slight improvement in the last 3-4 years because of more awareness in academic as well as in the industrial research domain. But still, this particularly, it shows there is a lot of difference in the between our India as well as the China. And for your kind information, the resources, the natural resources availability, we have much more available resources than China. And we have hardworking, very dedicated the youngsters or the researchers. Many of you are in this particular, have already joined in this particular talk. And the salary, even the salary package, which is, if you compare the salary package of a associate professor of China, associate professor of India, who gets the similar salary is being paid to a professor of a China. That means there are a lot of encouraging things here, but still we are lagging behind. So this is only because the lot of interdisciplinary research which is required, and also we have to contribute particularly the youngsters like you, we need to contribute more in science and the technology domain. And not only that, come out with the commercial products and then commercialize them. So that is what the China has did in last 35 years. So they are much ahead in the technology. Atma Nirbhar Bharat. So this is which translates to Self-Reliant India, is a phrase used and popularized by the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, and the Government of India in relation to the economic vision and economic development of our country. And in this context, the term is used as an umbrella concept with regard to make India a larger and more involved part of the world economy, pursuing policies that are efficient, competitive, and resilient, that encourage the equity and being self-sustaining and self-generating. As you all of you aware, during the May 2020, during the time of when the nation was, as well as many part of the globe, where there was a complete lockdown. So during that time, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, who launched this Atmanirbhar this particular campaign. And salutes to all those our scientists as well as the industries and the technologists during the complete lockdown period. So they came out with within 25 days, when there was the availability of the hand sanitizers, it may be, or the face shield or the face mask and many other day-to-day required things which were developed. Even the PPT, the kits, the kits which were used by the doctors or the healthcare professionals. So those we were actually importing, and within 35 days, because of the this particular campaign, our nation was able to produce completely in India. So that is the one of the first such a great initiative by the scientific community of our country. And before I speak further, let me just as a inspirational quotes by the these are, you can also take this as a the principles by one of the world famous who was the entrepreneurs and the petrochemical giant company founder, that is Shri Dhirubhai Ambani. The first thing is don't give up. So it is applicable to everyone, not only the researchers, even for the faculties and everyone. We can take this these principles. So under any circumstances, don't give up. Always think big, think fast, think ahead, and please remember, ideas are no one's monopoly. And if you are born poor, it's not your fault, but if you die poor, it's purely it's your fault. If you work with the determination and with the perfection, the success will follow you. If you don't build your dream, someone else will hire you to help them to build their dreams. And always remember, meeting the deadlines, it is not just enough. Meeting the deadlines is not just enough, but beating the deadlines is my expectation. So that is what the Ambani's principle. Pursue your goals even in the face of the difficulties, and convert any such adversities into opportunities. One best example was the during the pandemic only. During the pandemic, and when the country was, the entire nation was in the lockdown period. So we have converted that adversities into opportunities by developing our own PPE kits, or the hand gloves, it may be, or the face shield or the face mask, varieties of the mask. Even the many of the academic institutions and the universities of our nation, they came out with such many such inventions, and also they could contributed a lot. So they converted the adversities into opportunities. Growth has no limit. keep revising your vision. Only when you dream it, you can do it. And our dreams have to be bigger, our ambitions to be higher, our commitment to be deeper, and our effort should be always greater. So this is actually the dream of dream for the Reliance. And you know, this is the one of the largest petrochemical company of our nation, and also they also involved in the other uh, businesses too. Let me give, of course, the chemistry for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Since last few decades, the chemistry is contributing for the self-reliant India, as well as in future also, the chemistry is going to play a major role in the coming years for this, for achieving the Atmanirbhar Bharat in almost all aspects of our life. I'm just giving a couple of examples here. The first one is during the 60s, during the 1960s. So those time in India, the availability of the entirely the detergent powder, which was dominated by the surf, which was actually Hindustan Liver Company, or now known as the Unilever Company, which was a multinational. And there was no other competitors also, no any other competitors. Then this, the great personality, Kanshubai, Karsanbhai Patelji, who is actually from Gujarat, who born in a farmer community in Gujarat during the 1945. He completed his BSc during 66 with chemistry as one of as a major subject. And after obtaining his BSc degree, then he was working for one mining industry, which was located about 12 kilometers from his residence. And every day he used to go to his company by using bicycle, pedaling the bicycle 12 kilometers and again return 12 kilometers. And always he wanted to apply his chemistry knowledge into some useful product. And he observed that during that time in the market only the surf was the surf, the detergent powder by the surf, that was the only the monopoly in the market, in the entire market, and it was costing about uh, 6 rupees per kg during the 60s. It was very expensive during that time. And then with his chemistry knowledge, he started his own formulation, and in his residence, a small room of 10 by 12 room, that itself was his formulation room. And he came out with a fantastic formula. And then he started selling every day about 15 kgs. So while going to his office by bicycle, he used to carry those 1 kg packets. Every day he used to sell it to the nearby shops or on the way, whichever residence they required. So he used to sell that. So that is how he started and within 2-3 years, the entire nation, they realized the brand name Nirma, and directly they have this company has given an opportunity to more than 25,000 people, and also indirectly several lakhs people also they could got job because of this. So it's one of the great such achievement by a great personality, Karshanbhai Patelji, the chemistry directly into Atmanirbhar Bharat. One more is there may not be anyone in our country who has not heard about Kiran Majumdar Shah. Is the founder of Biocon company, Biocon India. She born in Pune during 53, and her schooling and up to BSc she completed in Bangalore, and then masters and the PhD from Australia. And then she came back to India, Bangalore, and then she wanted to do her own business. She is with the biochemistry, with that background, with her specialization was on the enzymes. So during 78, she took a small garage on the electronics, now what we call in Bangalore, the electronic city, or towards the Hosur Road, a small garage, and she started the business of peptide enzyme, isolating the peptide enzyme from the uh, papaya extract. So now this company again, it's one of the major biotechnology industry at the global level, and billions of dollars is being the company is worth of several billions of dollars, and also directly several thousands of people, scientists, scientific community are working in this company, and indirectly several lakhs of people are also, they also could got job. So this is again, this is how again the how the Atma Nirbharata with chemistry. Our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, so who had launched this Startup India campaign that is on 16th of January 2016. The Startup India Hub will be a single point of contact for the entire ecosystem and enable knowledge exchange and access to the funding. So this is by the Honorable Prime Minister of India. This was launched on January 16, 2016. Now, in what way the chemistry can still in the, I mean, in the following few of the domains where chemistry is going to play a major role in the coming years. One is the pharmaceuticals, the nanotechnology, the biotechnology, fuels and energy, and fast-moving consumer goods, water treatment and the purification, agriculture, and many more. In the pharma sector, the pharma industry in India, which is contributing more than 20% by volume of the global generics market, and about 62% of the worldwide demand for the vaccines. And India's domestic pharmaceutical market size was recorded at about 42 US billion dollars in 2021, and it is projected to expand to about almost about three times, that is about 120 US billion dollars. That is by 2030. So that means hardly another 8 years. So there will be a tremendous scope, lot of scope in the pharma sector where the chemistry is directly playing a major role in Atmanirbhar Bharat. In the nanotechnology, as you may be aware, India has published about 23,000 plus research publications in the field of nanoscience in the last, particularly in the last previous 5 years. And during 2013, India ranked third in the number of the papers which are published behind only the China and the USA. China was in the number 1 as usual, followed by USA and the India. That was during the 2013. But there is a lot of scope for us for the improvements. The amount India spends on nanotechnology research is still just a fraction of the research which is spending of countries like Japan, USA, France, as well as China. And only about 16 papers from India which appeared in the top 1% of the publications during 2011. Also, the number of patents applied from India to the US Patent Office contributes to hardly to about 0.2% of the total applications. So this is with the US patents. Though the people look at nanoscience and nanotechnology very positively, the number of students following undergraduate and or the graduate degrees or even the PhD in this particular area is very low. The number of PhDs awarded in the field of nanoscience and technology is approximately about 150 per year, a very small number as compared to the target of producing 10,000 PhD students annually over the next decade, which is articulated by the Ministry of Human Resource and Development. So there is again the nanotechnology, the basis for the nanotechnology or nano science or the nanomaterials, where it is nothing but chemistry only. So this is how in the coming years there will be a boom in the nanotechnology area, and these nanomaterials will be widely useful in electronics domain, electronics engineering, or in the electronic display systems, or maybe even in the defense, or maybe in the food sectors, agriculture, almost in every field. Where this is how the chemistry can again is going to play a important role in achieving the Atmanirbharata. Again, in the biotechnology, so India's bioeconomy is on the way to achieve US dollars of 150 billion target from the current USD of $70 billion to contribute effectively to our Prime Minister vision of USD $5 trillion economy by 24-25. So again, the chemistry and biotechnology. So again, these are interdisciplinary areas. So this is how the chemistry is again going to.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, is this fine to conclude in another 5 minutes?
Another 2 minutes, I think, because I started at 12:50. Another 2-3 slides are there. Another 2 more minutes, I'll be concluding. So mainly in the biotechnology, the biopharmaceutics, the bioservices, bioagriculture, bioindustrial, and bioinformation technology, where again chemistry is going to play a major role in achieving the Atmanirbhar Bharat. And another major challenge for the scientific community is the self-reliance in the fuels as well as the energy. So already there are few nuclear power plants in our country, and again it shows the achieving of self-reliance in the field of nuclear power. And now the electric vehicles, EV, these are becoming popular. So again, such type of charging stations will be very common. Again, in the developing the electric vehicles, the chemistry is also, they're also playing a very important role, particularly the charging batteries. And then these flexible solar panels, just recently, very recently, the Tata company have launched these type of recent flexible solar panels. Again, the chemistry is directly playing a very important role in this type of the flexible solar panels, or even in the our honorable President Ramnath Kovindji, who released the India's the indigenously developed fuel cell. And, the scientist, the Dr. Harshavardhanji, who is receiving this one, which was. And again, in the water purification technology also, earlier, these are actually the advanced hollow fiber membranes. We were importing, even now also, most of us, we are importing those membranes. However, in recent years, India is achieving the self-reliance in this particular field. And also, I'm very proud to mention that in NITK Surathkal, so we have procured the industrial scale production of this hollow fiber membrane unit. It is already installed, and probably this is the country's first academic institution which is having such a large scale hollow fiber membrane production unit facility. We have contributed in this particular field for developing the materials. With this, I take this opportunity to thank once again the organizers, KSCST, for giving this opportunity. Thank you. And let me end with this quote: I have not failed, I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work, by Thomas Alva Edison. Thank you, and over to the organizer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the good speech. Now I would like to call Professor S. Chandra, Coordinator, Vigyan Bhavan, University of Mysore.
Yes, madam. Thank you. 1 minute, madam. I will share my screen.
Okay, sir. We are at the last speaker, Dr. Chandra Nayak, Professor Chandra Nayak. The certificate link will be shared after this, and participants, if you have any questions of any of the talk, you can put your questions in the chat box.
I'm very sorry, actually something. Yes. Madam, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
I think it's fine. So
Put it in a slideshow mode, sir.
it is in slideshow mode only.
But we cannot see in the slideshow mode. It is
1 minute, madam. Sorry, 1 minute. I will share again.
So just
Now?
share the entire screen.
Madam,
No,
now will
no, sir. It is
1
only up.
minute. I will reshare the slides. 1 minute. Sorry, takes longer time. Is it visible, madam?
No, sir.
Now?
We can see the PPT, sir, but not in the slideshow mode.
From my side, it is in slideshow mode only. It's moving.
No. Sir, can you? Yeah, now it is moving manually.
Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
It is in slide mode or what?
No, sir. It is normal mode, not in the slideshow mode.
Moving, now?
No. Now it is moving, sir. Yes.
So is it okay now?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to speak in front of you all. I thank KSCST organizers and others. Actually, I award many eminent speakers. So after that, I was wondering actually why I chose this topic because basically myself, Dr. Chandan Nayak, I'm from University of Mysore. Basically, we are working with millets. After hearing from Dr. Shiv Prasad, we are also working with climate resilient crops like millets. So, but today speak, I choose actually general lecture, and whenever you want, you just stop me. It is a totally general. Actually, I was actually looking for audience, those who are in early career of research and those who are want to pursue research. So my today's topic is basic science, research, opportunities and challenges towards our pathway to Atmanirbhar Bharat. So when I was the student, actually I was whatever, when we completed undergraduate or postgraduate, we are always thinking what I'm really going to do, whether I can opt physical science, chemical science or biological science like that. And if I choose something, so I was wondering, can I really means students are wondering, can I really get there actually from the good institutes, or whether it is a useful, what are the risks if I opt the subject, and am I sure that subject which I opt, is it good for my career, and where I will fit, and when can I actually join for my job or something like that, and the subject which I have choose, is it appropriate for my career? So these kind of questions will come to the mind. So this is a competitive world, and in India we have more than 130 crores of people, and compared to others, actually in the world, actually in the science we are in 46th position, and in case of funding we are in 5th in positions. So we have to choose correctly, because actually we have to set our mind, actually our career mind, where we are going to fit, whether it is a physical science or chemical science or biological science, and what I have to do, whether I am to opt for basic research or applied research or advanced research, and where I'm going to fit, and whether it is a good for my career. So these kind of questions will come. We have to think before actually we have to opt. So many careers actually are available at India after implementing the NEP. So one, those who are studied in BSc like biology, you can opt actually physics in the later stage, you can opt chemistry or something like that. So for them, actually, they have a lot of opportunity to join a discovery research or preclinical research. Even they can fit in biopharma, clinical development, regulatory affairs, and they are actually can enter quality control, and they can actually also add bio IT. So these are the some actually examples where can go and opt. So in NEP, they have given one of the option is that our master degree is 1 year. So 4 years undergraduate. After that, you can start your basic science, basic research, and you can do your master degree in as a 1 year. After that, actually, we can or PhD if you are interested. It may take actually it is between 3 to 5 years. It depends on the institute. After that, if you are really good in research and if you are interested in research, you can continue as a postdoctoral researcher, and you will get a lot of options to join as a non-research careers like teaching. You can actually join patent office actually as a medical representative. You can join hospitals, and if you are a good in writing, you can have science writer. Many of the journals actually they are offering you as a writer. So in new NEP, they are given actually in higher education, they are given one optional subject like mother subject like botany, zoology, chemistry, physics. Apart from that, they are giving opportunity to student can opt actually like biochemistry, biotechnology, microbiology, material science, molecular biology, even actually journalism, anthropology, etc. Apart from that, some of the institute actually they are offering a specialized course like wildlife biology and conservation from NCBS Bangalore, and MSc Food Technology, and a PhD Nutrition Biology offered by CFTRI Mysore, and a PG Diploma from Food Analysis by DFRL. And IASC also offered many specialized courses in applied sciences, which are very useful for the research and useful for the students who can opt actually who can wish to pursue research in the future. Apart from that, many of the institutes throughout India offering PG diploma courses related to job-oriented courses like bioinformatics, biotechnics, cheminformatics, nanotechnology, etc. Apart from that, actually, to be a Atmanirbhar Bharat, government of India actually is sponsoring many fellowship for master degree students, like post-matric scholarship for SC/ST, OBC student, and UGC offered a single girl child scholarship to pursue their master degree. And DST gave actually fellowship to the rank holder student of a particular subject. So coming to the research, these are the basic introduction. So actually today topic is research. So what is research actually? So once you have finished your students are going to finish their masters, they want to opt a research. Research is defined as the creation of a new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. This could include synthesis and analysis of previous research to the extent that it leads to a new and creative outcomes. Research is nothing but research. So we have three different kind of research, that is basic research, applied research, and action research. So coming to basic research, what is basic research? It is a fundamental or pure research. Basic research studied phenomena to get a fuller understanding of it. For example, Earth, why Earth is round. These kind of things actually we can do it in. It may not actually may or may not have any bearing or on any application in the immediate future or even after a long time.
Oh,
So,
excuse me, sir.
yes.
Are you changing the slide because we are seeing only the second slide?
Oh no, I'm moving. So it's visible.
Yes, sir. Now it is a basics research slide.
So it's moving.
No, like only the basic research slide we can able to see.
Shit. Sorry. It's not moving now.
No, sir. Yeah, now what is research slide we can able to see?
Now it's moving or not?
Not moving, sir.
1 minute. I will reshare the slides again.
Sir, okay. When
Yeah.
you're sharing, you share the entire screen, sir.
Yeah, I'm doing actually. From my side, it's working. Actually, I don't know the problem. So
Instead
1
of
minute.
only the tab,
Yes, yes, yes.
tab or window. You share entire screen.
Mm. The entire screen, actually, it's not taking from my side. 1 minute. Sorry for that. Actually,
Sir, now go to the PPT, sir. PPT. No, don't.
1 minute, 1 minute. I will start.
Sir, you can open the PPT.
No, I'm not getting option here. I'm searching.
No, you just open the PPT. We can able to see your screen. PPT. Okay, now you slide show. Put it in a slideshow.
1 minute, 1 minute.
Yeah, now, yes, sir.
It's moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry for that. So, yeah, I was here. Actually, we have 3 different kind of research. That is basic research, applied research, and action research. In basic research is nothing but fundamental or pure research, and in the basic research, it may or may not have any bearing on any application in the immediate future or even after a long time. Generally, this type of research demands a very high order of intellectual caliber as well as an institution. So some of the examples of basic research is that how did the universe begin? So we have to study how did the plant evolve? How do fungi reproduce? What is the genetic makeup of rice? So this is the basic research. Actually, yeah, it may not actually we are not going to apply anywhere, but we are going to acquire knowledge in this. So what is applied research? Applied research, on the other hand, is a acquire knowledge on the practical application of the theoretical base, that is from the basic research already built up, which is expected to solve a critical problem. Applied research is usually conducted for industries or governments by universities or by specialized research laboratories or institutions. For example, if you want to improve agricultural crop production, so we have to choose actually either means resistant genes or something like that, like previous speakers what he has mentioned. So like that, we have to develop a disease-resistant plant to produce more food, or treat or cure a specific disease, either it is a plant or human disease. Improve the energy efficacy of homes, offices, or modes of transportation through nanotechnology, and it also developed to diagnose the very low use of certain chemicals, etc., like developing a nanosensors, biosensors, etc. And coming to action research, it's nothing but is a extension of applied research. In action research, it is focused on the immediate application and not the development of theory. So, for example, recently we have met with the COVID. So, we have developed a COVID vaccine within a year. So, these are all action research. So, coming to Atmanirbhar Bharat, to pursue all the PhDs or postdocs, Government of India is giving a lot of funding through CSIR, UGC, through ICMR as a SRF and a National Fellowship for SC/ST student and DBT Inspire Fellowship from program for first rank holders and the Maulana Azad Fellowship scheme from UGC for minorities and a KSTP Fellowship for from Government of Karnataka to pursue PhDs and Directorate of Minorities also gave fellowship to pursue PhD for minorities and Indira Gandhi Scholarship Single Girl Child Fellowship was given to pursue PhD from University Grant Commission. Apart from this, CSIR NET every year actually conducting exam to get to qualify the, if you qualify CSIR NET, you are going to get fellowship to pursue your PhD in different Institute of India. And DBT is also conducting every year GRF positions exams to get if you through that exam, if you qualify that exam, you will get actually get an opportunity to work in DBT Institute throughout the India. ICM are also giving SRF scholarship to pursue PhDs, and ICR also giving actually a lot of fellowship, especially ICR JRF. Every year they are conducting exam. Apart from that, almost all the universities are giving actually institution fellowship to go pursue their PhD. Various funding agencies like DBT, DST, UGC, CSIR, etc., giving various funding grants to conduct research in basic and applied science for early career researchers as well as faculties of different universities and institutes. UGC will give actually research award for the teachers. Every year they will notify and actually they will select the teachers based on their research interest and their previous and their proposal. And also they gave actually major research project up to 10 to 15 lakh for conducting basic research at our institutes. And they will give actually special grant like a special assistant program for the departments to equip with major equipments, major and advanced equipment. And also they encourage to give minor research project for minor research projects in different universities and institutes. CSIR also having a lot of schemes to get some grants to pursue PhD as well as actually postdoc as well as for teachers. Like they even for retired teachers, they will opt actually emeritus. They have a scheme for called it is emeritus scientist and research schemes like actually they will provide actually minor and major equipment. It is usually CSIR will give funding for applied science. And apart from that, to encourage the faculties, they are having some awards like a Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize and GN Ramachandran Gold Medal, and also for young researchers like CSR Young Scientist Award and CSIR Bhatnagar Fellowship they will give. To encourage the faculties and students, they are having travel grant to attend the conferences and workshops at national and international level. And also they provide symposium grants to conduct actually as a conference and symposium at our institutes. So DBT is also having a lot of funding opportunities in different disciplines like agriculture, medical, plant, and especially human genomics and oncology, energy, and animal and livestock, allied sciences. And also DBT is giving actually giving opportunity to have international collaborative project with different countries like Europe, Australia, US, UK, etc. And DST is also having a lot of funding opportunities for researchers as well as students and as well as actually postdocs. They will give actually mega facilities for basic research for the institute as well as actually universities to build a central facility like with advanced equipment. And they will give actually innovation in science pursuit inspired research program for the students who got actually first rank in the universities. And also they will give R&D infrastructure facility like a program like FIST, SAIS, PERS, SATI, and STUTI. In the Suti, actually, they gave a grant to conduct a workshop and conferences at different institutes to help the students as well as researchers to in a free of cost to attend the conference and workshop to get hands-on experience of the advanced equipment. And also they gave actually science and technology of yoga and meditations program for science students. Like actually they will encourage the students to attend the conference and workshop. They will give actually means a travel allowance for that. And also they are encouraging Swarna Jayanti Fellowship to give actually those who are working in international and they want to come back to India. And National Science and Technology Management Information System also gives some grant related to information science. And they have established one more umbrella that is called SERVE. And they also gave actually more than 5 crores grant in cognitive science research initiative. Like actually we have to have some collaboration with the Advanced Research Institute and university, we can apply. And they are going to give some very good research grant to pursue the research. And DST also having one more umbrella that is called Science and Engineering Research Board. It is coming under Ministry of Science and Technology. They are also giving actually more than 2 crores grant in core research grant, and they have different programs like National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical System, and they will give actually to encourage minorities. They have the scheme like empowerment and equity opportunity for excellence in science. And to encourage the young researcher, they are having actually early career research award. They will provide actually up to 50 lakh research grant from that program. And also they provide actually international travel support to the young researchers to travel abroad to gain knowledge. And ICR also having a lot of schemes to provide actually research opportunities for students as well as to encourage the faculty. They are giving a lot of funding to pursue research. They will provide up to 2 crore research grant for the faculties to work on different kind of mainly applied research, especially on health science. Apart from ICR is also giving actually a lot of funding to especially on genomics and transgenic and nanotechnology and abiotic and biotic stress, to study the abiotic and biotic stress and quality traits in plants, and management and utilization of natural resources in agriculture, mechanization and energy in agriculture. And ICR also provide research grant to conduct research in social sciences as well. So apart from that, actually, from Government of India is offering a lot of fellowships to the students and research scholars as well as faculties to conduct their actually research in international level. Like they have Fulbright Nehru Fellowship for Indian citizens to it is like an Indo-US program. Every year they will notify, and faculties are eligible to apply for this fellowship. And apart from that, UCIF, that is United States India Education Foundation, is offering fellowship for MSc students to pursue their PhD in US, as well as actually for PhDs. After PhD, they are going to give a fellowship for postdoctoral fellow. And actually for faculties, means scientists and teachers, they are actually gave a fellowship to go abroad and work for actually between 6 to 12 months. We have one more program called, it is a DAD fellowship. It is through actually DST. It is actually Indo-German fellowship. Every year they will notify. They are having actually undergraduate, postgraduate, and as well as PhD and postdoc fellowship. Apart from that, faculties are eligible to opt actually a short duration fellowship in DAD scheme. And we have actually one more important fellowship is the JSPS postdoctoral fellowship from Japan Society for the Promotion of Science through DST. Under this, actually, we are having a lot of different kind of fellowship. It is between 3 months to 2 years, 3 months, 3 months to 3 years, including PhDs, postdocs, as well as short duration fellowship. The students, those who wish to pursue PhD in Japan, they were eligible to apply for this fellowship, and postdoc fellowship is also available. And the faculties, those who are working in as a permanent basis, they are eligible to apply for many fellowship to pursue their research in Japan. Apart from that, we have Newton Baba PhD placement program. It is a British Council through actually Indo UK program through DBT. Come to the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Again, these are some fellowship and opportunities available in India. So recently, our Honorable Prime Minister initiated a startup in India. There is a mobile application made available by our government, which can be used for registering for a startup India scheme. In this scheme, it is a credit guarantee fund for startups, and it is a tax exemption on capital gains, tax exemption to startups for up to 3 years, tax exemption on investment of above fair market value, industry, academia, incubation, and partnership. Any student actually wish to start their career as an entrepreneur in a different kind of area, either it is a basic research, applied research, or engineering, medical, they are eligible to apply for this. And for this, actually, Government of India is having one cell that is through DBT. It is called Department. It is a BIRAC. It is a Biotechnology Industry Research Assistant Council. BIRAC every year, throughout the year, is offering actually a lot of funding for actually the person who is wish to start their career as an entrepreneur. They can provide up to 50 lakh to 10 lakh to up to 1 crore. So they are having more than 7 different programs. Throughout the year, notification will come, and we have to apply. We have to defend our ideas, and the idea should be a novel, and it should be application, and it should be a product-oriented research. And actually, in Government of Karnataka, they have started actually GOP NASCOM about 10,000 startups warehouse. It is a subsidized co-working space spread across 30,000 square feet. It is in Bangalore. This facility will help create a very robust ecosystem to support early stage companies by getting angel investor and enterprises to play a more active role in Bangalore and getting more startups to succeed. So in Startup Karnataka, we have another program called GIFT. It is the Department of IT, BT and SSTP has identified a private sector. It is a springboard solution as a program manager to operate this. Its first incubator operated on a truly PPA. It is a public-private partnership mode. This will help all startups in artificial intelligence and deep learning mode. And we have in GOK, we have mobile 10x startup hub. This is set up as a center for apps excellence for innovation and entrepreneurship in app development. We have one more option is in Bangalore Bio Innovation. Is a first of its kind and the largest bio incubation center in the country, and is an initiative of Department of IT, BT, and S&T of our Government of Karnataka. It is a nestled between the academic zone comprising IBAB, CHG, and the bio-industrial zone. The center aspires to create seamless value to chain connect from ideas to startups and ventures. In Karnataka, we are also having ABLE, that is Association of Biotechnology-led Enterprises. It is a non-profit pan-India forum that represents the Indian biotechnology sector. The primary focus of the ABLE is to accelerate the place of growth and biotechnology sector in India through partnering with the government in their biotechnology initiative. Through ABLE, they are going to providing a platform domestic and overseas companies to explore collaboration and partnership with local incubators and forging stronger links between academia and industry and showcasing the strength of the Indian biotech sector. So to conclude, actually, these are some startups. It is operated through Atmanirbhar Bharat, and they have started in lakhs. Now they are earning it is actually more than crores, more than 10 crores, 20 crores like that. For example, recently it has started by Byju's, Swiggy, Paytm, Zomato. These are all actually Indian startups. Now they become actually, they are actually joint companies in India. So actually my lecture is to just actually educate the students. We are having a lot of opportunities in India to pursue basic and applied research. And actually, we are having actually different organizations like DBT, DST, UGC, CSAR. They are giving lot of money to conduct a research. So anyone can opt as science and they can actually continue their research, continue research. If they want to be academician, actually they can join as an institute. If they want to be entrepreneur, we have actually a lot of opportunity, lot of funding opportunity through Government of India as well as in Government of Karnataka. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, if you have any question, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Participants, if you have any questions, you can ask sir. Otherwise, you can put it in the chat box. So maybe there is no question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for the inconvenience.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, madam.
Now, I would like to call Mrs. Priyanka, Project Associate of KSCST, to deliver a vote of thanks.
A very good afternoon to all the participants and the esteemed resource person we have here. On behalf of Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology and Vigyan Utsav team, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed guest speakers, Professor Gayatri Devraj, Professor Harish Sheshadri, Professor Ranjani Vishwanath, Professor P.V. Shivaprasad, Professor Arun Mohan Istlur, and Professor S. Chandranayak. And I also sincerely thank our head of the organization, our executive secretary, Mr. H. Hemant Kumar, for supporting the webinar. And I also thank all the participants who have made the webinar successful. And I hope everybody has gained your knowledge towards basic science and Atmanirbhar Bharat. And the next webinar will be on industry and Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we request you to participate or register to the upcoming webinar as well. The link for the certificate will be posting in the chat box. Kindly make sure you will be marking your attendance by filling the form. The form will be on till 3 o'clock. So before 3, you can fill up the form. So for the participants, those who have filled the form will be receiving the certificate. So thank you all. Renuka Patil, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself. Or you can keep the message in the chat box.
Okay, ma'am, I'll message.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the webinar. We'll meet in the next webinar theme, Atmanirbhar Bharat and Industry. Thank you, everyone.